So, welcome one and all to another episode of the Wiki Weekdays podcast. I'm your host for this episode, and this week, Karl Smallwood, joined as ever by the illustrious Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
And for anyone unfamiliar with the format, and this is your first time tuning in, first of all, welcome. Thank you for tuning into this episode as your first foray into our content. What is it about the thumbnail that made you click?
Was it
That's,
just
that's
like
good. That's some good organic ass audience interaction right there, isn't it? So, the format is myself and my co-host Lucas scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for wikis on subjects we're interested in and want to talk about that week, bring them forward for discussion, and see what kind of conversation arises as a result.
yeah, and it's one of those of like maybe mine informed yours today. Maybe we're talking about two subjects that can kind of like tangentially together.
Yes, sometimes the two topics we choose to talk about have something in common. Sometimes the line that we draw between them is decided upon after the fact because we notice a similarity. Other times they're completely arbitrary and we just wanted to talk about two completely different random things that week. And we do invite our audience to give us feedback on which wiki they thought won this week. And it's not which wiki is on the subject they're particularly most interested in, but which wiki they thought inspired the funniest, most interesting, entertaining discussion. And what did we bring forward for discussion last week, my friend?
So last week you went first with a topic on Hell's Kitchen, the cooking show, and then I talked about my favorite episode from season 1 of Squid Game, Yambu.
Yes, and which wiki won last week according to our audience over on Discord? I know the answer, I'm just making you say it.
Yeah, people didn't like my depressing topic, I guess.
Like, people love some Gordon Ramsay. I didn't even get to reference one of my favourite comments I've ever seen. And I know for a fact Gordon Ramsay has seen it because there's a screenshot floating around out there of him like looking at his TikTok as the comments on screen. And the comment is simply, can you imagine how nervous Gordon Ramsay's wife gets when he eats her out? And Gordon Ramsay has seen that comment.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. God damn.
Do you think we could ever get him on the podcast? Is that like, that's for me is like one of the dream picks.
That would be, but I think we're going to have to up our game if that's the case, right? Like, I think we need to be
aim our
hitting
sights
those
a little
numbers
lower.
a little bit more to get fucking Gordon Ramsay on here. So I guess if you want Gordon Ramsay to ever maybe appear, you need to be liking and sharing and subscribing and all that good jazz.
Exactly. We need to get those numbers up. Like, Gordon Ramsay look at this podcast and like those numbers. They're fucking raw. They're not good enough. But yes, thank you to everyone who voted on last week's poll. It's nice that you voted for me.
Yeah, it was
Feel
pretty
much
much a clean sweep as far as I can tell. And if you want to vote on which wiki won this week, then you can go to our Discord and vote over there when those polls go live.
You know, I picture it. It's like that episode of Squid Game where they were going like, I went, give me all the points and I'll go make sure that, like, these are all secure, and I'll get Lucas some points while I'm away. And I just left, and I took all my points with me, and I just stood there as the guy in the pink costume with a triangle on his face comes up with the
He's
assault
like, no,
rifle.
Carl said he was coming back with more
he
internet
said
points for both of us. Don't worry.
He said, there's some points for me. There's enough points for me to make it through, right? So I'm sorry, there's not. Bam, 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 bam.
Dear God.
But if you are, currently watching the stream, because you can watch this podcast or you can listen to it, like both are valid. But if you do watch it, you get a little bonus, a little extra flourish that myself and Lucas like to put into each episode. And that is Pet of the Week, which is submitted in our Discord by members of our Patreon. And everyone on the Discord can vote on which pet they think should be Pet of the Week. And this week it's Tensoon, which is just a very happy looking husky. And it's so zoomed in. I get the feeling if you zoomed out, it's next to a celebrity or a dead person. Do you know when you watch like true crime documentaries and it's like clearly the other people in this photo did not give permission to be in this documentary, but this person's dead, so fuck it, and they really crop the photo?
Why did you have to? This was just a nice picture of what I assume is a husky looking very chill, and then you have to bring death into it, Carl.
It's because I watched like a true crime documentary the other day. I forget who on, but
That
was just in my head because I was just watching it thinking like, yeah, we do like a lot of visual editing ourselves. When you start to notice the tricks that other like content creators and even like TV shows and like legacy formats do.
Yeah.
And you start to even notice like mistakes. Like I'll never stop being pissed off like during the pandemic, for example. When I was recording Fact Fiend from my fucking bedroom with like my mattress like on the floor, and our video and audio quality was better than the news.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is the For example, there was like that Good News one that what's his name did, John
John
Krasinski,
Krasinski
and
did.
that was like looked like it had been fucking live streamed from 2012 or something. And it's like, these people are millionaires. How are they having such a hard time getting a setup of like a camera and a light?
The worst one was the Tiger King sequel.
Yeah.
'Cause Tiger King released like right at the start of the pandemic, and Netflix like we need to do something with this. So they literally mailed iPhones to everyone involved with the show, talk to them,
Yeah.
and they all just joined like a big fucking Discord chat on their iPhones, and they
Because
uploaded that and not charged people money for it, but presumably like, can you imagine being a video editor and looking like, was it John McHale
John McHale, yeah.
talking on his
Basically did,
iPhone,
yeah.
thinking he's getting paid 15 times what I do?
Yeah, like they were I think it was like, oh, here's High King's been really popular, so here's like a follow-up special episode. And it was just, hey, we mailed out a bunch of fucking iPhones to people and did a really shit interview with them all for an hour.
It's a wild time, and Tiger King is on the list of things to talk about, but it's not the thing we're talking about this week. And before we move on, Lucas, we've mentioned Discord and we've mentioned Patreon. And a little thing we like to do is we like to shout out our PPs, our Patreon producers.
Technically, don't, right? Are the PPs not the names above us? I get confused with what we've said and what
We have the
haven't.
PPs and we have the big PP. So let's shout out the big PP, shall we?
Big PPs, yeah.
Yeah. And they're the people who are on our shout out tier on our Patreon. So I guess they'd be our Patreon podcast producers. They'd be the triple Ps, but PP's funnier.
Of course. So, Karl, do you want to begin with the shout outs?
Oh god, I forgot that one of them was a really difficult to pronounce word. So Tinakui Horchata, Octilani Tommy, and that is in Nahuatl. I believe I'm pronouncing the Nahuatl part correctly, but maybe not the words within that language.
And hopefully I'm the next one correctly. Of Carlo Palachico, Spanish for Karl Smallwood.
Again, I don't think it is. Can someone who speaks Spanish confirm? I checked, and wood in Spanish is Madeira. So I don't know where the Palo Chico comes from. Is it just like the modifier small changes the word?
Potentially, yes, yeah.
Okay, and then the next person we have to shout out is the Burning Dragon, and Burning Dragon is like typed out with emojis, so I'm loving the return to hieroglyphics. Let's go. Bolados, Bajando, Bajablast, Buffing, Bacas, Dikaka, Di Buffalo, Bombinado, Bolu Desas, Bucaneda, Ebaka, Balanado, Con Barbosa. And that is a tongue twister, but it's a tongue twister in a language I don't speak. So I don't think that's really fair to say it's a tongue twister.
For a challenge, though, Karl. You did.
Yeah, but a challenging tongue twister is one where I can pronounce all of the words and know how they're pronounced. And the challenge of a tongue twister is pronouncing them all, enunciating every word clearly and concisely, while still saying the sentence out loud. Like I said, I know she sells seashells by the seashore.
Maybe the implied challenge was to also learn the language in time to give the shout out.
That Duolingo Owls is there. It's baseball bat of like fucking learn.
And less of a tongue twister, we have to shout out Rosalindis Memphis.
Followed by Bar Weep, Granite Weep, Ninny Bong. And we're getting a lot of shit for that over on YouTube for not
clear my hands of
it.
this because I don't know Transformers very well, but you have no excuse.
Well, I like the Transformers, but it's like the universal greeting from Transformers the movie, which I watched once when I was like 13.
I thought you were quite a big fan of that film. I'd assumed you'd watched it a few times through.
I rewatched the fight scene, yeah.
Anyway, next we have to shout out Kicking Bucket with a little bucket emoji.
And that's the thing, yeah, you can put emojis in there. I'm just waiting for someone to do like the full-on hieroglyphics. Try to spell out like the full-on message just with the emojis, but we follow that with Lucille de Steele. Luke's
Sorry, bad timing to take a drink. Then we have Beat of Awesome with insert interpretive dance Bee of Hive. Hive of bees, not Bee of Hives.
That's the thing. People make fun of interpretive dance until you see someone who's really fucking good at interpretive dancing. Like, holy shit!
Yeah, this was not like the finest dance, but
it's when you watch like Billy Elliot, right?
Yeah.
And he's getting made fun of by all his mates. It's like, oh, you do ballet, it's a bit gay, innit? Then it smash cuts to him at the end, and he's the most ripped motherfucker ever, and he looks like 18 feet into the air. Oh, well, we follow Bee of Awesome with Lam de Llama.
And we have little ghost who is accompanied by some little ghost emoji.
Followed by the ghost emojis. Split screen is our next.
And last but not least, we have to shout out Judge Dredd.
Hell yeah.
Big PPs out there. Oh, but yes.
And I will say, I do, appreciate the challenge of people putting like stuff in languages I can't pronounce. But I do want some tongue twisters in English.
Yeah, fair. So
'Cause
that's
I love tongue twisters, but I feel like doing it in another language is almost like it's like asking me to jump, but tying one of my feet, like tying my feet together. It's like at least let me like try with my full capabilities before you kneecap me.
I guess, but Carl, it's just one of those of like we have asked for several challenging things at this
This is
point,
true.
or more accurate, maybe you have kept pushing that bar, but people are paying to be big PPs, and we've got to respect. Shout them out.
There you go. Like just someone's going to rock up with like the ancient Sanskrit.
You've got to stop giving people these ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, I think.
And yeah, that's all the housekeeping and our intro done for today. So, Lucas, what is the topic you've brought forward for discussion this week?
I mentioned like that last week. I brought a pretty depressing episode of TV forward for discussion. This one,
good episode of TV though.
Very good episode of TV. This one, just in general, is just bad all around. So, apologies for maybe getting into like another subject to not be the most like fun thing to talk about, but also we just have to every now and then.
Interesting though, right?
It's interesting.
That's the point. It might not be fun, but hopefully the conversation is interesting.
What is fun, Karl, is to say Microsoft, go fuck yourself. Because
what have they done now? 'Cause you follow gaming news way more than me. Like, I play games, but I had to stop interacting with like a lot of like gaming related news and content because it's just so aggressively dour.
It is.
Because that's what get clicks, and like aggressively aggressive as well. Like, a lot of people like fighting to see who can be the most offended or upset by something.
A lot of the time, it's that people don't have a choice when talking about gaming news because shit like this happens. And the wiki I've brought today is the wiki for the Perfect Dark cancelled video game, which
wait, that got cancelled?
Has just been cancelled.
I saw the thumbnail and went, "Oh yeah, that's the new Perfect Dark." They cancelled that.
Yeah,
you told me like they fired a bunch of people before recording, so I did know a little bit. I'm sorry. It's called. We have sometimes we have to play dumb for the sake of the content, but why would they cancel Perfect Dark?
It's a very good question, Karl. A game that a year ago had a demo running on their stage or virtual stage of like, look at this fucking video game, Perfect Dark's back, and a year later the news is fuck it, it's done.
Perfect Dark was awesome because like one of my favorite things about first-person shooters, or one of my favorite tropes from first-person shooters, is secondary fire. I love secondary fire. Perfect Dark is a game that lived and breathed by secondary fire. It's like, if you're not going to make a new Time Splitters, at least I'll get a new Perfect Dark.
That's the thing, right? Is like a couple of years back, that revival project for Time Splitters went down, and then it's like, well, I guess we've got Perfect Dark, which is still like in a similar vein, and then that's been cancelled. And
I just want secondary fire.
Yeah.
What happened to secondary fire?
What
like Unreal Tournament, fucking dead.
Like
Doom has it.
Interesting weapons in general.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, nothing annoys me more than like, oh, we got a game. It's set in this future world. What guns do you have? A sniper rifle, a shotgun, and a machine gun.
And look, cool. A lot of the times, yes, we'll have a video game, say for example, like Gears of War. I think Gears of War is a good example of, yeah, they do kind of have the Gears of War equivalents of like a machine gun and a shotgun, but then they also have interesting weapons like the torque bow and the digger and things like that, or the dig shot or whatever it's called. And like it actually tried to make like several interesting weapons and talk about things like, secondary fire, where you've got like the fucking lancers with like the ability to bayonet or chainsaw your enemies.
I still think active reload is one of the coolest fucking things.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised more games haven't ripped it off. because active reload is such a boss mechanic for a game. Because it's clunky at first, but once you get the timing nailed for your favorite weapon in Gears of War, it feels so satisfying to tap reload and then tap it again, hear that click noise, and then have your character go, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and then not only get a faster reload, if you're perfect at the active reload, you get a slight damage
boost.
increase as well. So it's doubly rewarding.
The idea of gamifying something as simple as a reload was such an interesting twist on the genre. As I said, I'm surprised it hasn't been utilized more, because it means that even something as simple as reloading your gun is now something that can be made more efficient. It's a way for you to like maximize your mastery of the game.
Yeah. And
it can literally make the difference between in a firefight, right? If you've got that damage boost from a perfect reload, your time to kill is slightly shorter than your opponent's.
yeah,
It
if you've got
rewards
both got a
mastery.
Lancer, then and you've managed to nail a perfect active reload and they haven't, that makes the difference. And yeah, it's just it's wild because you can tell that that's one of the few things that Gears of War still wants to like remember and stick by, because like the new version of the old remaster that they've done for Gears of War 1 is now called like Reloaded. So it's like, and I was so upset when I found out that's just basically an up-res of the remaster they did for Xbox One, not another proper remake.
And they didn't put like any new stuff in there.
No, pretty much it's just like, hey, it's 4K now, it runs better, blah blah blah. And hey, it's a way for PlayStation players to finally play a Gears of War game, which that element is cool.
Is the definitive like version of this like Xbox classic, this staple, this champion IP for the brand. But you know what? I don't want to like give Xbox no good no
I don't want to give
props,
them any goodwill
because
right now, no.
not right now. No. So what have they done? Tell me about Perfect Dark.
Well, Perfect Dark got cancelled alongside like several other like, you know, mass layoffs and stuff like that. There's a report that like Forza Motorsport isn't going to be a game anymore, just the Forza Horizon
Which
series.
Forza?
Like that's the rumor. I don't know if that's been confirmed. Confirm that one, but like the
But
actual
Forza is like,
motorsport or Forza side of things, like they might not be doing
oh,
that
so the
anymore.
motorsport spin-off, which is more interesting than the racing side.
No,
But
the Horizon one's the spin-off. They might be
oh,
cancelling the
okay.
main portion of Forza.
Wait, what? Why would you cancel that? That's like Xbox's answer to Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
It's like racing games are so popular, and there's like two. It's Gran Turismo and it's Forza.
Yeah. And now there might not be
Why?
Forza.
Why would you give the other half of the pie to PlayStation? You have the pie in front of you. You can eat it.
And, and Forza Motorsport, the latest one, I think did kind of release to a bit of like a doldrum, but generally speaking, most people have preferred Forza Motorsport to Gran Turismo for the last few Gran Turismo iterations.
It's because Forza actually has a little bit of fun. Like they put the Warthog in it for a little bit. They have those crossovers with other IPs,
And
which tends to be
maybe
quite interesting. Whereas,
that's kind of where Horizon is eating its lunch a little bit, because all the fun went into the Horizon side of things, and maybe Motorsport became a bit more stilted.
like, just I'm not the biggest fan of like simulation racing games. I'm a bigger fan of like arcadey ones, but they do have an audience, and that audience loves to
I
spend money
mean,
on those games.
Forza Motorsport 3 and 4, I put so much time into. I used to really enjoy those games, and
I was more a Need for Speed fan because that was.
yeah,
I think that's like just enough arcadiness to make me not be like intimidated by the
yeah.
all the statistics and tuning aspect.
But yeah, like I think in terms of like video game racing games, like I dabbled in things like Forza Motorsport and Gran Turismo, but I was playing a lot more of like Mario Kart and Burnout and things like that. I still definitely was more on the arcadey side.
One day we'll have to talk about Gran Turismo because I love how it's there's like industry rumors you hear, and those stories that sound like too perfect an origin story for something, and it's like, okay, but it can't have actually happened that way. Gran Turismo is one of those, and it is actually true. So the origins of Gran Turismo is, at the time, PlayStation just let anybody in the company, even people who weren't actively working on games. Like if you worked in like fucking payroll, you could pitch an idea for a game.
Mm-hmm.
And one guy saw that mass email and just responded, "I would like to drive a car with my PlayStation." And someone saw that and went, "Okay, how would you make that work?" And they put him in charge of a team, and that's what Gran Turismo became.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Fair.
Just, yeah, I want to drive a car on my PlayStation.
And that's the thing is, like, if you're talking about cancelling some of, like, your institutional IPs, just
Like cancelling Halo, right?
Like, that thing is the joke during, like, kind of the 360, end of the 360 start of Xbox One was like, well, what IP have you got? Like, what games have you got Xbox? You've got Halo, you've got Gears, and you've got the Forza car.
Well, that was the joke, right? That Xbox didn't have a mascot. Well, they did. They had it in Master Chief, but they had so few mascots that when they put like their banner ad at E3, like PlayStation, like Lara Croft, Nathan Drake, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, they don't have games for them. But they still
Even
have
though
things
most of those aren't PlayStation anymore.
but they have this like roster of characters people associate with their brand. When Xbox did the same thing, it was Master Chief, Marcus Phoenix, and the car from Forza.
Yeah.
That's why there was a rumor for a while they were going to put the Forza car in Killer Instinct.
And that's the wild thing, because you mentioned things like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and Xbox have them.
They do now.
Like, Xbox have owned them for several years at this point. Like, where's our fucking Banjo-Kazooie game? Where's another Crash game? Where's another Spyro game? Like, where are
Why did they not just
these
put them all into one
characters?
game and just make the definitive platformer?
I mean,
Rather than like
I wouldn't
split
want
the
that.
audience for those games.
I wouldn't want that at all. I want them to have like their own individual style, and like Crash Bandicoot's very different from the platform and style of Spyro, which is a lot more about exploration, right? Like, and yeah,
No, you can
another one.
just as easy make it so that, like, when you pick Spyro, you play Spyro style levels, and when you pick Crash, you play Crash style levels.
Just make two games, like have two different developers on them at that point. That
Well, clearly, they don't want to make any fucking games, do they?
No, that's the problem.
When your
right?
advice is make two games and they're not making one.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating part. Is just here's Perfect Dark. It clearly had some development issues because it like they thought they could be clever and make this new developer the Initiative, which at the time they said was a quadruple A studio, but apparently that was just a spelling mistake. It wasn't intentional, but who knows whether that's just backtracking because they got the shit ripped out of them for that.
Quadruple A cancelled.
Quadruple A, and it's like the two games that have claimed to be quadruple A or quadruple A studios are this studio, the Initiative, that is now gone, run by Xbox, and then the quadruple A game made by Ubisoft, which was what is it like Skull and Bones, that pirate game, right?
Oh, the pirate game that doesn't have any pirate action in it.
Like, yeah,
that was the one where like when you pick. I think that's the game where I saw one clip of it and went, "This is fucking dead on arrival." Like, this is what happens when you engage in combat with another ship, and it just plays a pre-canned animation of you boarding the ship and taking the ship.
I don't know where that game landed in terms of
how much
how much that was true by the time the game ended up coming out, because it got delayed and delayed and delayed. Like, they did end up putting some segments where you could be off your ship and stuff like that, but it's not exactly a well-remembered game already, is it?
Yeah, and whereas Sea of Thieves continues to just exist.
Well, we'll see about that. Because
getting cancelled as well.
Why
is everything getting cancelled? Is there any new shit coming out?
That's the thing, right? It's just Rare had a lot of cuts. Their game Everwild, like, that got cut and is cancelled now. And like, it's like Greg Mayles, who was like the director of Banjo-Kazooie, has now been let go of Rare. And it's like, how are you letting these like absolute veterans of gaming, people who made fucking Banjo-Kazooie, and you're just firing them because you want to put money into presumably AI? Like, fuck off, Microsoft. Absolutely. And just, last thing is, I know that
I'm so tired of AI.
I'm already tired of that conversation, but it has to be discussed, right? Because like games that I'm excited about and developers that I'm excited about are losing their jobs because another like fucking thing to bandwagon on after like NFT failed and all this shit is just like, okay, we want to be the Google of AI because yeah, that might make them a shit ton of money. Gaming won't make as much, and it's like, you're Microsoft. You have trillions. You don't need
Also,
to make
micro
all these people lose their jobs.
software.
Yeah, and
Not to mention as well, they say, oh, it won't make as much money. I've seen how much people fucking drop on skins for like gacha games and shit.
okay, that's a lot of
Like
money. Like,
the
but you,
fact I'm saying go back to that. I prefer it that because at least someone made those skins. At
yeah,
least someone got paid to make the skin they're charging $60 for.
yeah, like the the scariest part as well is if your money is going all the way into AI, is a lot of that to then also turn around and be like, well, a lot of the game developers lost their jobs because now we've just got AI tools. And is like, is that
You know
where it's
what?
going?
I look forward to it being like NFTs where it just the bubble burst and everyone got super fucking mad.
Well, the
Can't
sooner
wait.
that this
I,
like fucking
I will dance on the ashes.
this like Disney and Universal lawsuit against, I can't remember which generative AI tool it is, but they're suing one of the big ones and like, or maybe multiple of the big ones, and it's just, I've got to assume that Disney going, hey, look at these things copying our IP with even vague prompts, we're shutting that shit down. Hopefully, I'm hoping that helps towards like stopping people just scraping the internet
Yeah.
and copying shit for AI.
Well, it's the point that I saw raised is you go back like 15, 20 years, and these big companies who are now embracing AI were suing people. Like, remember Napster,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
like the people who own the IP rights for Metallica's album sued someone for millions of dollars per song that they like shared online because they were that protective. Like, that is how valuable we see this individual piece of intellectual property. We will sue the fuck out of you for downloading a single song online because like downloading one song is an absolute, you are stealing our intellectual property. And then you've got those same companies now investing in AI companies that are arguing we need to be given free access to every piece of content online forever in perpetuity and not pay for it.
yeah.
And that's fine because the people who are making that statement are the people who had the money in the first place.
That's the thing, right? Is like all it's doing, at least like in terms of AI, if we are talking generative AI in the way it's used right now, people learning, like robots learning from other people's work and regurgitating shit. And it's like, yes, I do believe that there are ways that like AI can be used in different ways to like actually be productive. But the thing we're talking about in terms of just generative AI that is being used to like, make art and shit like that. It's like that's not what it's doing. It's not making anything new. It can't.
No, it's as well. It's to crib a line that was originally like coined by Elon Musk of like, AI sucks because the biggest fucking losers you've ever seen are the people who are championing it. And the original quote about Elon Musk is, Elon Musk is fucking lame. There's not a single gay person who's horny for him. So I think nobody cool is championing this. It's all the biggest fucking losers you ever met. We're all in on AI.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like, the AI discussion aside, it's just I'm so tired of seeing like these, big companies like Microsoft go and buy a bunch of developers in court, promise that this won't produce mass layoffs, and then within a year they've done like 15,000 layoffs in Microsoft as a whole, but a lot of that is in Xbox divisions, like hundreds
I
of
would love,
thousands of jobs and studios that they've just bought being shut down and shit.
like, not love, but I would be curious to see the internal document that no doubt exists where someone calculated it'll be cheaper to lay them off and get sued than it would to keep hiring them. It's reminds me a little bit. 'Cause I don't know if that's the case, but I imagine some number cruncher somewhere has made that calculation.
They were
These companies must do, right?
Yeah, like, a reminder for everyone, they went to court to argue that they should be able to buy Activision and it wouldn't be like a monopolistic buy. And then in court promised like one of the many clarifiers to this purchase would be that it wouldn't result
For the health of the
actively
entire industry, right? Yeah.
in destroying a bunch of jobs. And then it's like, no, it definitely won't. It definitely won't. We promise. We pinky swear. And now here we are.
Yeah. It's like these companies, they have like risk assessment people. They're paid a fortune.
Yeah.
Like, safeguard the company's resources and it's money making opportunities. And I'm reminded a little bit of back in the day with Ford. I think it was Ford, where it was the Pinto. I think it was the Pinto or the Gremlin, or whatever the fuck it was. That was the car where they put the fuel tank in the back.
Right, okay.
And when if you got rear-ended in that car, the fuel tank would explode and kill everyone in the car. And the company were well aware of this fault, but a bean counter inside the company calculated that the mass recall would cost more than the wrongful death suits they'd likely have to pay out. And they just left it. And obviously they ended up paying out way more when that document leaked. Well, the fact that a company sat there and presumably some executive with some degree of, the power to make that decision, looked at a piece of paper that said, you'll lose money, you'll lose less money if you let people die, and went, fuck yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is when we talk about morals and philosophy and things like the trolley problem, you have to make a base assumption that these people, like, the person in charge of the trolley has empathy.
They don't want to kill people. Oh, it's the other one, isn't it? Of like would you push a button and kill someone to make $1 million? You have to realize that billionaires are basically pressing that button as much as they possibly can, because every decision they make is actively killing someone in a macro sense. Like, when a company invests in like AI or expends a country's worth of power to do something and actively contributes to like global warming or is dumping fucking chemicals into the environment. On a macro scale, they are killing someone. They're not pulling the trigger themselves, but they're creating the situation that is going to result unequivocally in deaths or
like
people
they're not
suffering.
just pushing that button. What they're doing is they're getting a turbo controller and putting the turbo mode on the button and then taping it down and just leaving it there.
And leaving the room,
Yeah.
They're not even looking as they press the button, they don't care.
No. And, obviously, the cancellation of a video game is not as wild as, signing off on letting people potentially die in car crashes with, a fault.
It's the same mentality, though, right?
But it's
signing on a piece of paper that is going to put 9,000 people out. Yeah.
Like, it is ruining the lives of thousands of people in one fell swoop with just absolute disregard for any human involved in the process, including, Phil Spencer putting out a statement immediately after going, don't worry, stockholders, we're, doing better than ever and making more profit than ever. Money is fine. And thank you.
The money is okay. Don't worry, the money is okay.
Yeah, and even putting in, this wouldn't be possible without all of your, amazing work to the developers, as you're sacking a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it's one step removed from killing someone, but you are effectively ruining someone's life.
Yeah.
Thousands of people's lives, right? It's like, I could go out there and I could, hit someone with my car every single day for the next 15 years, and I wouldn't ruin as many lives as Xbox did in one day. When you think about it on that scale, right, it's actually unfathomably evil. It is on a scale that is unimaginable. And that's one company on one decision, and stuff like gets made every single day.
And
why are we talking about this?
Yeah, I don't know. It riles me up, but just to call them out, right?
Okay.
Because I think it's one of those it's easy to sit there and get used to seeing headlines like Microsoft fires thousands of people and just move on with it like it's a fucking Tuesday. But I think it's important for people to remember that, like, yeah, this is not cool, this is not okay. And not only does it mean, like, oh no, we won't get some cool video games, like, it's important to just remember that, like, there are people being fired, and, like, it's not a number on a news article, it is actual people. And, like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, I think, like, I always want to be the kind of person of going, like, let's not just bury our heads in the sand and pretend like this is completely perfectly normal behavior for companies to do, which
Of course, yes.
sadly it is normal for them to do. But I think, like, we've got to keep that one little bit of humanity within ourselves to remember, like, if enough of us eventually realize how bad this is, then maybe we can speak up and do something about it, right?
Yeah. Like, as long as you know in your heart of hearts that your hand would at least tremble before you press that button, you've still got more of your soul left in the people making these decisions.
Yeah, and it mentions in this wiki that the Joanna Dark actress, after the cancellation, Alex Wilton Regan, called for fans to speak up if they want to see Perfect Dark survive. And we
I
aren't
hate when
quite
they do that.
living in a world where just speaking up and being angry is going to bring this project back.
I hate when, like, I get the idea, but say direct the energy somewhere else. It's not quite the same thing, but there's a term known as slacktivism.
Yeah.
And it is where people will engage in ultimately fruitless like campaigns and protests, but because they have the illusion that it's making a difference, they pat themselves on the back all smug like they made a difference. And it's like, ultimately, you didn't actually do anything. And if anything, your energy would have been better spent doing anything else. But the thing that they did do had like a performative element that allowed other people to see them doing it.
Yeah, and I
Right?
think it's quite like I don't think that they had like bad intentions
Of
by
course, that's the
saying
thing.
this.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do.
Yeah,
And I understand it. Just, I
like, I'm not
wish.
here to try and criticize this person directly, but I think it is a bit disingenuous to say, like, if you want to see Perfect Dark survive, just speak up about it, because that's not going to save this game. Like,
No. Like,
they've
get it
already made the
trending. What you should be
decision. Like,
doing is.
Satya Nadella's not going to see some people be upset on Blue Sky about it and go, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Let's hire everyone back." But ultimately, like, it would be different if, so, like, there were some situations, like, I remember when they laid off the Hi-Fi Rush studio, like, someone else came in and bought that studio and tried to keep as many of them employed as possible. But this is the Perfect Dark IP. Like, they're not getting that from the grasps of Rare and Microsoft.
No. Like,
So
what you
even if
should be
you can
doing is.
like, even if those developers can all stay together and get a job and keep a studio alive or make a new
They're
studio.
not going to get perfect art back. Right? A
Exactly,
much
yeah.
better utilization of that energy would be, hey, a bunch of people just lost their jobs. That's a bunch of talent that has just entered the job market. Let's get people aware of this new pool of talent that is out there that can be mined.
And it's sad because the more and more you see stories like this, the more and more those developers are going to just quit the gaming industry. Those talented, creative people are just going to be like, fuck it, get me a job in tech, where, like, get me a job in AI where it's going to be guaranteed for a few years at least.
Yeah.
Like, these people, some of them have been working on from the, like, initiative
Yes.
development studio since 2018. That means that they've got a 7-year gap on their CV now with nothing to prove. Like, no,
Yeah.
and probably all locked behind, like, all of their work is locked behind NDAs, probably.
What always frustrates me, just I've dealt with this myself a lot, and it's every single time something like this happens, it's always the most short-sighted decision made to immediately appease
Yeah.
profits. And every time something like this happens, you always see like, no doubt there'll be a Xbox will be sat there in a couple of months or a year or so. Like, why is it that FromSoft, for example, fucking just keeps getting winner after winner after winner, and then every fucking interview with like Miyazaki is, well, we have an incredible pool of talent that we keep on staff because training someone to their level would take fucking decades. And they're like, well, why can't we do that? Why can't we replicate their success? Or like the Persona people.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I remember seeing a breakdown of like, why do their UIs look fucking incredible? Because we've had people working on our UIs for decades inside the company. They're the best people in the industry, and we're not fucking letting them go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is also, not just due to a different mentality, also just due to having like more protection laws in Japan about mass firings. Like the protections in the UK are better than the US. It still happens, but like in the US, it's pretty much
Unions,
just like
baby.
you can just fucking be gone, right?
Make unions, man. Let's go. Join a fucking union. The Simpsons did an episode about this 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Join
And
a union.
the fact that still to this day there's like very little movement in terms of video game unionization in the industry is like wild to me. There's a few teams that have done it, but on a small scale. Like that's one thing that at least in that Microsoft trial and everything. Again, it seems like they can just get away with breaking the promise about mass layoffs, but they also promised that they wouldn't union bust at all.
Well, normally, like the benefit of a union is just it's the encapsulation of the argument they can't fire us all. I guess they can. That's the idea. Right? Like, well, if your bands they can't fight, they can't. The idea of a union is, hey, you're protected, and if you have your rights violated, the entire fucking workforce will quit at once or go on strike to protect your rights.
And
that threat
in
is normally
some
what keeps the
cases
company
like
from
this,
breaking
Microsoft's
those.
just like, okay, cool, you're all gone. No problem.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Like, you think that threat would work, but I guess not.
They're just like, that's 100 less mouths to feed, let's go. That's Microsoft's mentality, right?
Put it into the AI minds.
And one thing as well to mention is like, it's not even just like studios that Xbox own, because I saw like
So they just go next door and fire people there as well. Was it just
no, they pulled
drunk on power?
they pulled funding from like John Romero's project. Who he had his own studio, he owned it all, or presumably him and other people owned it, and they were just getting funding from Microsoft. And that's immediately been pulled, and no one has a job anymore because it's like, well, they had one egg in one big basket, and that egg got taken away by Microsoft, and it's like, yeah, even fucking John Romero, one of the two guys credited to making fucking Doom, his funding is getting pulled, and he's like, what are we doing? It clearly, as people can tell, it pisses me off so fucking much. Of like, let cool creative people just do what they're good at. And also, yeah, try and fucking... Again, I don't know how much that helps when you're under someone like Microsoft, where, again, they don't think about cutting 20 jobs at a time, they think about cutting 9,000 jobs at a time.
The scale is unimaginable.
Yeah, it really is.
And, like, it's just, I say it's endlessly frustrating. I don't really know what to say. That hasn't presumably been said a bunch of times elsewhere.
Yeah, there's really not much of an answer, right? Like, that's one of the more depressing things is like, well, yeah, the people with the money and power, they get to decide how this goes, and apparently, like, at least where Xbox is concerned, it's going down the shitter.
It's like the economic equivalent, right? Of you sitting there, like, recycling, and you're like, you open your phone. It's like, oh, Jeff Bezos's wedding is the 100 fucking private planes that landed for it this weekend. You're like, well, that's more like carbon emissions than I'm gonna make in 2,000 lifetimes in a weekend. The fuck am I doing?
That's more money spent on one wedding than I will ever even think about seeing in my entire life.
When you think to yourself, where is that giant meteor?
At least when you see, though, that person, Bezos having his wedding and all this money and all that, what does it culminating in people protesting and like burning effigies of him. Like, at least there's nobody burning effigies of us out on like the streets
Yeah,
of
that's the thing.
Venice.
He's still not happy, right? It's like Elon Musk. He's got more money than like God, and he's still really fucking sad
He's
because
still
all
seemingly
he wants to be funny.
like he's seething at the idea that nobody likes him.
Nobody likes him. No, I think nobody cool likes him. So I
Yes,
can't
of course.
imagine like he must like when he goes on Twitter and he sees the biggest fucking losers celebrating him. It's like, why does nobody cool like me? Because there's a
Yeah.
story told before he went crazy. It's Nathan Fielder, and Nathan Fielder like we just like Nathan. Is it Nathan for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, they've done a few. Like I've heard the rehearsals really good, but I find the concept of that really harrowing to watch.
Mm-hmm. So Nathan Fielder talked about how for years, do you know when Elon Musk was like basically appearing on like every nerdy show to try and get himself some cred? Like, he was on Big Bang Theory. He was in like Iron Man for a little bit. He appeared in The Simpsons. He kept pitching Nathan Fielder of like, I should be on your show. It'd be really funny. And Nathan Fielder's like, he's not funny. He's not funny, so I don't want him on my show.
It's funny
And
rewatching the clip from Iron Man 2 that he's in, right? And like you can kind of see just the lack of shits that Robert Downey Jr. gives about being like,
he couldn't
hey,
give less of a fuck.
Elon Musk is here, and he just palms him off.
The weirdest one is like when he's on Big Bang Theory, and that's the episode where because obviously he's really rich, so he's like, oh, I get to pick what happens in my episode and what my lines are. That's where he volunteers at a soup kitchen, and he talks about how I like to give back to the community. It's like, man,
And
what
then
happened
it's
to
like,
that guy?
yeah, and also just trying to have that image right when the Marvel movies were coming out of like, no, I'm definitely like the real life dark kind of vibe. And you're really not, mate.
But he could have been.
If he had any charm in his body, maybe.
But you think he could even get away with that? That's the thing. There's a lot been talked about how he just went fucking crazy out of nowhere, and it's not. It's just he is fundamentally unlikable, and he's so desperate for approval that when he found he could get that from just being like a weird racist on Twitter,
That's the thing.
he's just a really rich version of that guy online who never grew out of. Just if I say racial slurs, they have to pay attention to me. It's not good attention, but all eyes are on me for a split second.
But like, there was that period of time where seemingly his PR team had him under wraps and were doing a good job of marketing him, right?
And his people who've worked for his PR team have talked about how he was just so fundamentally unmanageable because he kept insisting on micromanaging everything. And he just couldn't be convinced to just listen to his PR people.
Well, it's seemingly similar with like when he bought Twitter, right? Of instead of listening to the people who were experienced, he went in there, fired a bunch, and then kept tweeting about the fact that he was working till 5 o'clock in the morning every day with his team.
Well, speaking about firing someone, right? He was that dude who I forget his name, but I think he was it's in some European country.
One of those ones, yeah, sure.
No, he's in a European country, and like people know what I mean when I say he's in a wheelchair. Like he's a big proponent. I think he's like the guy. I want to say Sweden, something like that. But he's really well known in his home country for being like a really well known, well liked proponent for disability rights. He also just so happened to have created something that was fundamental to Twitter's functioning years and years and years ago. And he was like tweeting about Twitter, like saying, "Oh, like Elon Musk fucking sucks." And Elon Musk's like, "Who are you? What do you do?" Okay, and he's like, "Well, I do this." He's like, "You're fired." Just on a whim, and then it emerged that guy, basically, because he did this thing that was fundamental to Twitter's functioning, he was on a special list inside of Twitter of like, never fucking fire this guy. He has the most cast iron, do not fire clause we have ever seen. And it's like, if we fire him, we have to pay out millions to buy him out completely. And Elon Musk fired him publicly on Twitter. He's got a slam dunk fucking case.
I'd like second one without even looking at anything, right? Just
yeah,
no
because Elon
research
Musk
done into his own
couldn't be told now.
people or company. Just like, who the fuck are you? Is it? Well, I'm the one that makes this work, bitch. Like, who do you think I am?
Let's find his name. There we go.
Yeah.
So it's Haraldur Thorleifsson.
and just
And he's like a well-known proponent for like disability rights in his home country. I think he was like that country's person of the year at one point. And just, yeah, he had like this cast iron clause in his contract of you can never fucking fire me ever, or you owe me millions. And he almost like fired him on a whim
like,
because he just wouldn't listen to his people.
do you need much more evidence that the man's just a maniacal idiot? That like, without even again researching into his own fucking new team, he just fired a guy publicly on a whim because he pissed him off.
Well, the funniest one is where like he sent out an email of like, okay, oh no, he instructed like the people he brought in, his bean counters. Okay, fire the people who wrote the least amount of code this month because clearly they're not doing their
Well,
work.
just
Not realizing
writing
that
a
the
lot
people
of
who write
code
the least
doesn't
amount of code,
like
the
writing a
people who
lot of
write the
code
least amount of
doesn't
code,
mean good
yeah.
code, right? Yeah.
But also, the people writing the least amount of code, probably the people writing the most efficient code.
Yes.
Also, they're probably also doing the really specific bug fixes that require specialist knowledge.
Yeah. They're probably doing more work and writing less code rather than just
One of the
spamming out code.
It's where like one of the most like famous apocryphal stories about business comes from, and like there's been examples of it happening, but the basic version you probably heard like touted online is, you know, a company has a mistake. They've got a machine. It's broken. This machine is costing them hundreds, thousands of dollars every minute. It's not functioning. They bring a dude in to fix it. And he says, "Okay, I want $10,000 to fix this machine." Okay, 10,000. Walks over, presses one button, machine whirs to life. Person tells him, like, we're not paying. Why would we pay you $10,000 for pressing a button? You pay me $10,000 because I know that it was just to press that one button. So that's like, but there are versions of that in real life, right? Of why am I paying someone thousands of dollars a month to write 3 lines of code? Because I know how to write those 3 lines of code and know where they go.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like,
Or even just in regards to creativity, quality over quantity.
yeah, exactly. And I think the
SpongeBob dealt with this, right? The SpongeBob episode is cooking the Neptune makes 1 billion fucking burgers and they all taste like shit.
oh yeah,
SpongeBob makes one really fucking good burger. You're better than me. SpongeBob knows this concept. Children watch that show.
Yeah, Elon Musk clearly doesn't. But yeah, it's what I was gonna say is like, I think like the moment you need to look at Elon Musk and go, oh, this person is just a moron, was just buying Twitter in general, right? Of like making a braggy statement on Twitter, going like, I'm gonna buy you out, and then immediately trying to back out. Like, no, you made
it's like, yeah, they went, wait, are you serious? It's fun fact, yeah, even before Elon Musk like took it over, Twitter never ran at a profit. It never made money ever. But it became like that. It's like it was too big to fail. Effectively, it's like the internet equivalent of a bank. That's too big to fail.
It has inherent value in the sense of it has a lot of use, a lot of information on those users.
So, but there was no one out there who was willing to buy what was effectively a fucking huge hole in the ground with nothing, no function.
Yeah, the only reason you're making money off Twitter is by finding someone to sell Twitter to, right?
Exactly, and no one wanted to buy it. And then when Elon Musk's like, "Well, I'll buy it," it's like, "Okay, well, okay, let's go."
Yeah, and it's like, "Oh, what do you mean that I can't back out of this?" It's like, "Well, no, we accepted your offer publicly on the platform you want to buy." Like, that's a pretty solid case right there. Is just you openly said, "Yeah, let's fucking go. Let's make this deal happen." There's no backing out.
Business genius Elon Musk buying at the peak of its value as well. Not even buying the dip. What a fucking idiot.
Yeah. And it is so funny that, like, there are these people who can get away with having a public image, like, for so long that they then just turn around and flatter within, you know, days or weeks or months.
We've talked about it on smaller scales than this, like in regards to like internet personalities. You know, I've been guilty of it myself. The person who needs to be there saying, "Shut the fuck up." Just before we went live, we were talking about an internet personality who just kept putting their foot in their mouth.
Yeah.
And all they had to do is shut the fuck up, and they can't,
And we're
and
not
they
going to
make
go
things worse for
into
themselves.
who we're
No,
talking about because we're not internet drama YouTubers, but yes,
but like again,
all over the show.
the amount of internet drama YouTubers who like poke the bear and get in trouble, and it's like, shut the fuck up, and you have no problem.
Yeah, and it's like
But, like,
similar to Phil Spencer. Is like obviously they have to put out a statement when they fire hundreds or thousands of people, but
you know
like
what? He's got a good PR person because I bet he doesn't respond to any of those tweets
he
calling him
doesn't
out.
respond to the tweets and stuff. But maybe he should have had somewhere like someone somewhere going, maybe don't brag about how well the company's doing right now. Maybe
That's a
that's a
bad look.
bad look. Like,
That's a different job. That's a PR person. The job
save.
I'm talking about is the
It's like, you know, you've got to be saving that for an investor call later down the line, right?
yeah.
Not
Well, I was
emailing
saying,
the
I bet
people
you
you're
Phil.
firing, telling them that you're doing great.
I'll bet Phil Spencer doesn't respond to any of those angry tweets.
No, of course not. But
I bet it's not even his phone. But he don't even have it. He don't even log into his Twitter account on his personal phone.
probably not. But like, still, that's another person whose like public image is just like absolutely spiraling in terms of like the game community and Xbox fans and stuff. Like the 3 Xbox
Oh, yeah.
fans that are still there.
It'd be a job that I think I'd be pretty good at. So I feel like it's a job that requires a lot of empathy, but would very quickly burn through your reserves of empathy.
I don't think you would be good at that job because I don't think you'd be good at letting people go.
No, I mean the job of slapping someone and saying,
Oh,
"Shut the fuck up."
okay. I thought you were saying
But I
like
think
you'd be
that
good at being Phil Spencer. I was
no,
like,
no,
I don't think you're willing to like sit back and like sip your coffee while thousands of people have just been let go.
no. But I could be the person who tells you to shut up and stop
Yeah,
talking about it because
but
I've had experience with that on like the smallest possible scale. I'm like, shut up. But as I said, I think it requires a lot of empathy because you need to be able to put yourself in a position of people reading it. But I imagine it would very quickly just erode that empathy you had as you kept dealing with like bigger and bigger issues.
definitely.
Right? Eventually, you'd just be like, "Fuck this," and that's like up with Elon Musk, I imagine, right? His handlers are probably just like, "He's too fucking stupid."
And
At least with a toddler, eventually they stop learning to put their hand into the fucking plug socket. He's building bigger plug sockets.
but like Hamza in chat had mentioned that like, oh hey, like Nexus sold. I saw that they were preparing to sell, and like that's a different side of like it wearing weight your soul. Where I saw this person was like, hey, like 20 years ago or whatever it was, I established this website to just let people like share mods, and now it has consumed my entire life, and I just want a fucking day off.
I just want it. I want it gone. I want it rid. It's like he's turned into his millstone around my neck, and I want it gone.
And it's like,
Which you can also understand, right? Like
I
they
can
can't all
totally
be VLC.
empathize. Like the idea of I just wanted to make something nice for people, and now it has consumed everything of the last 20 years of my life.
It
Like,
got so big that it's like Wikipedia, right? I can't imagine the pressure on Jimmy Wales, where he's committed, like, we will never sell Wikipedia. We will never sell it. We will never run ads. But he must look at the numbers and go, maybe one. And he doesn't. And I respect him so much for not doing it.
yeah.
But the temptation must be so high. And he must get offered millions of dollars every single
But
day.
it's basically the one stalwart that has avoided shitification for this entire internet existence.
Exactly. But then that he probably doesn't, he never signed up to have that pressure put on him.
Yeah.
And now he has to bear it.
And
I said that guy, you said the Nexus mods thing of like, I just wanted to make a fun website, and now, like, my entire life is being consumed by this thing. Imagine Jimmy Wales at some point was like, I want to fucking get rid, but I can't because anyone I sell it to would immediately sell out, and I can't have that.
And that's the problem is like even knowing all of that and knowing that you could dedicate your entire life to making sure that Wikipedia, as I say, is like the one stalwart on the internet left, and knowing that the moment you retire or die and it gets succeeded onto somebody else, they could immediately fuck it up.
Just look at like every other wiki, right? Fandom.wiki. Look how fucking shit that is compared to Wikipedia. Your Wikipedia instant, clean, simple, well written, loads in for 3 seconds, like doesn't like absolutely just like hammer your RAM.
Like,
You said earlier you opened up a
yeah,
wiki page for a recording we were doing. Your computer slowed down due to the amount of ads that the page ran.
like I can't remember which wiki it was, but it was one of the fandom wikis, right? It wasn't the Marvel one, but it was another one I went to check. And I like opened up the wiki, my computer stopped responding for a good 10 seconds, and then my Google Chrome just was not working, and I had to just close it. Like my
Yeah.
only way, and I've got an editing PC. It's like it's decently powerful. It's not got the best graphics card, but other than that, it's got like
You shouldn't need a graphics card to open a website.
yeah, it's got a decent amount in it, and the idea of just opening up a web page fucked my both Chrome and PC up. It's like that's how bad some of these sites are.
And I said, Wikipedia could be like that tomorrow. And as I said, I greatly respect Jimmy Wales and whoever else he has in charge of the website. But I can't imagine how much pressure they must be under every single day to just sell out.
Yeah,
And I don't know if I'd be able to resist for as long as they had. Like, I resisted it for as long as I could with Fact Fiend. But even in the end, we still took sponsorships.
yeah,
Bills needed to be paid. We needed, at a certain point, it's like it's the lesser of two evils. Either people eat this month, or we run like people don't eat this month, or we run an ad.
and that's the thing, right? Is
I
like
guess we've got to run the ad.
both me and you are like open to um like sponsors and stuff on Wiki Weekends because we know the reality and we know that like both of us have literally got other jobs in order to like help fund us do Wiki Weekends part time.
Yeah. I'm curious. I
Because
work at an AI company.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we we want to do this, we enjoy doing it, but like yeah, if someone comes up with a big bundle of money and goes, we can sponsor you and like make it easy for you to
Oh,
pay
I
bills this month, I'm
I'd sell out
taking that up.
tomorrow. I'd do it.
Yeah. It's like I told you when I joined Fat Fiend, I think the one biggest mistake you've made is not selling out.
I should have done it earlier. Like when I get asked, it's like I should have sold out earlier and bought them on my house.
Yeah. And like obviously we do our best to try and be ethical and not put too many ads in things and stuff like that, but we're just also not against the idea of like getting paid for our work. And it was always that one thing that I was sitting there going like, yeah, Carl, you should have just made more money. Like you made a decent amount, but you should have made more.
Bought a house. I could
Yeah.
have bought two houses though. My mum could have lived in one.
hmm
That'd have been nice.
I think I even told you to do
Yeah.
that shit before, like I even had the thought of joining Fat Fiend myself.
Oh yeah, everyone did. My own dad told me. I was like, but Dad, you're the reason why I try to be as ethical as I can. It's like, son, I would have sold that instantly. It's like, fuck's sake. My own dad was like, I'd have sold that instantly. And it's like, damn, Dad.
Yeah, and you've all got to find your own personal line. It's like, yeah, there are some sponsors that I would actively not take. Like, I would not take a sponsorship from fucking Elon Musk. You know what I mean?
If you offered me $1 million though, I'd be like, okay, sure, you
I'd
run
think
it.
about
You
it.
run it. You're not gonna run it any better than I did. I'll just buy it back from him. It's worthless.
That's true, right? You could get a bargain on it. I wonder how much Elon Musk would sell Twitter for back to the people he bought
He
Twitter
never
from.
would.
Like,
He'd never sell it. His ego. He'd burn it to the ground before he sold it.
yeah, true. But yeah, it's
His
just
ego would
like,
never let him admit he was wrong.
uh, yeah, it's one of those funny things, right? Of like, we all have our own lines, but I've got to both respect and, slightly think that they're stupid for never wanting to sell Wikipedia
The
or
thing is
never
that I
wanting to
wouldn't.
sell it out.
Yeah, I would completely 100% understand if they did. I'd be disappointed that Wikipedia itself was no longer the
But I'd
form in
also
which.
want that person to be successful, right?
Exactly. Right, and hopefully, presumably Jimmy Wales must earn a decent amount. Like he pays himself, a wage as CEO, and
Yeah, sure.
Wikipedia does do okay.
And
I think
that's
they
the
do
thing
their
is,
like campaign once per year. I always chuck 20 quid in, but the detail that always gets me is when they say, "Hey, if everybody who read this donated $1, we'd reach our funding goal for the next 10 years." in a day.
Yeah.
That's how big the website is, and they have to run it for months.
And we have to, we kind of have to donate, right? Because our jobs are reliant upon Wikipedia at this point.
Oh yeah, I always chuck some money Wikipedia's way. Every time I get
Yeah.
that thing of like, oh, well, you read, it's like, you're probably tired of reading this. It's like, no, I'm not.
That's the thing is, like, I always chuck them a couple of quid anyway, but the idea that now, like, we literally have a YouTube channel branded around the idea of reading wikis, which admittedly, a lot of the time we don't read much from the wiki, but sometimes we need to.
Yeah, do you know what? If Wikipedia wants to do Wiki Weekends, like Wiki Weekends, and rip off our stuff, they can.
Well, we're just ripping off their shit and making it video form. And
It's
we're
one of the
not,
things
because
that,
we're not just
yeah.
sitting here and reading a wiki page, which is what some people
No.
do.
Like, it's as I said, I'd completely understand if they wanted to sell it, but I really hope they don't. Because if I was placed in their situation, I don't know if I'd have the same level of commitment to their ideals. Because there's a lot of numbers that'll probably get written on that check, and the number probably goes up every single day.
And
everyone has a price.
maybe, Karl, an ethical way to cyclically do this is for us to sponsor Wikipedia and Wikipedia.
Well, I'm still, obviously they never would, but I'm still surprised they don't do like Wikipedia Plus.
Yeah. I get it. And
Even just
again,
do something.
there's so many like possibilities for revenue.
Do you know what I bet? I bet they have someone in their inbox every day telling them ways they can monetize and increase their
Even
revenue.
we
Like,
do,
run an
Karl.
ad, do a subscription service.
Even we get fucking emails almost daily from grifters being like, you could increase your views this way, or you could increase this, and it's like, cool, yeah. Like, I just got an email from Patreon today asking if we would reconsider changing our prices on our tiers because we could make more money.
Yeah, because I always thought Wikipedia should like team up with like, is it the Wayback Machine?
Yeah, or like the Internet Archive. Or
Archive,
like
right?
that. Yeah.
I always felt they should team up with those guys. Like, and will lend like Wikipedia's legitimacy and the fact it has like basically universal goodwill to help them get out of like the legal troubles they keep running into.
True, like that maybe I was discrediting them because, they are another one which is almost wholly just only for good, right?
As I said, the real heroes, the absolute biggest dicks on the internet, is VLC.
Yeah, true.
VLC, like they go to like trade shows and stuff, and it's like I think it's 3 dudes. They turn up, they set up a booth, and they have like a fucking traffic cone on their head, and they sit there and it's like, "What are you doing here?" It's like, just see what's going on. Like VLC, the fucking legends.
Yeah, VLC.
I've got on my taskbar at the bottom.
That's the thing, like
VLC
OBS,
champion.
Like there is a lot of like examples of like free software and stuff that people are just like doing the God's work, right?
Discord's one. Like, so good that it fucking decimated Skype. Skype had a 20-year head start, and Discord came out. Okay, we'll do it then.
Discord has reached the enshittification levels, though. It has got like
just a little bit
the nitro and the ads and stuff like that on there now. Like, it is creeping in. It certainly is, but yeah. Anyway,
they tried.
We're using multiple of these different things right now, and like,
you know what? I'm using
Audacity.
like 4 different free apps all at the same time. I'm using Audacity, I'm using Discord, and I'm using VLC all at the same time.
Yeah, well, I've got OBS running, and it's like, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, dear God, but I guess it's probably
I've got a Wikipedia page up.
Yeah, it's a nicer note to end on for what I apologise for being like a generally slightly dour subject. But Karl, you'll be back in a few minutes with more cancelled video games. Yay!
Yeah!
Oh, but we'll go quickly to our break now. Yeah, you'll get to see a nice big zoomed in Tensoon. So we'll be back.
Here's Tensoon. Have you seen this dog? Last scene. It looks like a missing persons poster. Just about the way it's cropped and framed. I don't know. Sorry.
The way that I've cropped it, at least, yeah. But...
yeah.
Oh, excellent. So, Karl, to kick things back off before we get into your week, keeping you what bring to us?
Not particularly, no. Just happy that I'm here, doing well, and yeah, just check out the Patreon. I've also been scripting that video essay. I mentioned it ages ago, but I was inspired. Get a bit more writing done. So there's a. I mentioned it's potentially going to be a Wiki Weekends thing if we get to a certain point on Patreon, but thinking about it, it probably won't fit the established format. So I'm probably going to make it a fact theme video,
Okay.
and I'm not going to pivot fact theme into being like a video essay channel. It's still going to stick to like the usual fact theme format, but I figured I'm going to retool fact theme focus
Okay.
and start
Yeah.
trying to do like fact theme focuses, which will be video essays, answering like pop culture questions that only I give a shit about. And the first one that I scripted, about like 2,000-3,000 words into it, and I'm halfway through like one of the shows that needs to be mentioned, is which sitcom dad is best at sex?
Okay. I
It's a
mean,
question that's bugged me for a while, and I obviously to answer the question, I need to watch like 8 different sitcoms.
yeah, and I've got another, idea for you, Karl. Talk
Okay.
about like rinse and things from. What about instead of putting it on Fat Fiend, doing it that? We just make a new tier on the Patreon that's like $1,000 a month. I'll make it.
No, because I wouldn't want to be able to commit to it.
No, I'm
Because
joking.
I was speaking.
$1,000
Well,
a month, and Carl's like, probably not. No.
no, because I'd have to commit to it, and I wouldn't want to like not be able to commit to an idea like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
it is something I want to work on, but it's a lot of work, especially the pop culture ones. I mean, we talked about Jose
Hmm?
on the guest podcast we did a while ago, and it's like, oh, they did Mad Men, and they had to watch all of Mad Men like 3 times, like once to watch it, two to like make notes, and then a third time to like get clips.
Yeah, like to want to like build the video itself, right, and visualize all that, and
Let's say you get the good ones, right? You can't just surface level it. So for mine, I've watched all of like, well, I don't want to say the sitcoms because people know I'll be able to guess who like one of the people
but
that gets
you
mentioned on it.
can
But
say like you clearly watch Modern Family because the Phil Dunphy episode was the one that
is
inspired
where we
you.
mentioned, yeah. So I've like watched
To
Modern
talk about
Family again.
it.
I've
Yeah.
also watched like 3 other sitcoms,
So expect
and
that
it's
in
tough. It's
the next year.
no, it should be done by the end of this month, scripting wise. Then I've got to record it.
Well, that's what I
So I'm not
meant.
sure what I'll do
Like,
with the format.
I'm not talking about how long to make this, like, for you to make the script. People might be able to see it, I'm just giving you a long period of time, so you're not saying that it's going to be, like, super soon. It's just you're working on it.
I'm also as well not going to do like the try and pretend I'm like H Bomber guy or something, where they're putting out like 4 hour long, super well researched videos. I'm watching some TV shows. It's not that difficult
That's
to
the thing,
do.
though, right? It's like you
The
look at,
difficult part is actually coming up with a unique concept that's
like,
not been done before.
you
People do
look at
retrospects on
H
shows
Bomber
all the time.
Guy, and realistically, H Bomber Guy, the majority of the time they've been making videos, they weren't massive 4 hour long videos, but
No, they grew
because
in length and scope.
they've grown into that. Now they're only putting out one video every 6 months to a year or something because they are massively long, huge projects, right? They are
Yeah, and we're almost ready
incredibly
for our
well made
annual
and
H Bomber Guy video.
researched.
I
What was
think
that? Sorry.
we're almost ready for our annual H Bomber Guy video. So the plagiarism YouTube one came out last year, about 11 months ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's been talk. I've seen like talk of like H Bomber Guy doing like podcast appearances. So like must get asked all the time. Next video's on Adobe. It's like that's going to be a fucking
But
nightmare to sort through.
maybe this is all time to shoot our shot, Carl.
And that's the thing as well. Uh, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not doing like primary research or like getting like interviews with people from the TV shows. But I am doing like I create more like what Jose does. Like a lot of stuff in the background.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of like superfluous extra universe information. But because like my content is my face, I'm very fortunate in the sense that I don't have to do a lot of video essays do, which is edit together hundreds of hours of like B-roll. I can just be on camera for 90% of it.
That's the thing. You can do what we do with Wiki Weekends, right? Where you can put in clips and overlay footage over you
Yeah.
talking to camera rather than some people who prefer not to be on camera who do it where everything needs to be footage. And then not just that, they then have to make more passes for copyright and shit because their entire video is just copyrighted footage. And I
Yeah.
argue
We're
that,
also about
they use it in a transformative way. a lot
Of
of
course,
companies
yes.
disagree with that reading, but yeah.
Yeah, we've got about like 4,000 words at the moment. So that'll end up probably being like a half an hour to 45-minute long video. Well, that's like mostly done. I've done all the primary research. I just need to write the fucking script now.
But yeah.
Also, I'm running out of fucking words for penis.
But
Like,
Karl,
it's really difficult. Like, there's only like penile power level. That's great. But that's one. I've got an entire list to do. Champion of cock swinging. That's two.
obviously, talking about like we had Jose on as a guest, and
Yes.
that is one thing that, like, thanks to people on Patreon, we reached our goal to get monthly guest podcast going, and we're trying our best to keep that up. Last month we weren't able to, but I can officially confirm that we did take like the potential appearance fee / donation, depending on, we try to offer people money for the time. A lot of the time they're just nice and don't want to take the money. They see the chance to podcast and collaborate as just being worth their time in general. So, we hope that people take money, but if not, we donate it to a charity of their choice. And with there not being a guest last month, we still donated to a charity of our choice, which we chose to be the Trevor Project, which, people don't know, helps out like the LGBT community and helps with like mental health.
America needs it right now.
Stuff.
Yeah.
America does really need it right now, especially. And just we spoke on another podcast about like, hey, we should just make the donation every month, regardless of whether we get guests on, as like a way to not be taking that money for ourselves, and maybe come across as not
we're very
wanting to get
cognizant of the
guests.
fact that it could look like, hey, we've got to this tier. People might have donated for that tier. Oh, we couldn't get a guest this month, so we're just going to take the money we'd have given them and split it between ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's not our money. It's money that we've specifically earmarked for somebody else. It is not on us to take that.
Yeah, exactly. So, just nice little thing to mention. Like, I think it was like $52 we donated, with like the addition of like just cover the transition fees and stuff like that, the transaction fees, sorry, and stuff. But just made a donation.
It'll
to
be
the
posted in the
Project.
Discord for anyone who wants confirmation, because we can say that we donated money. There are people out there who've said that in the past and not done it.
And you know what? I'll just post in the general chat now on our Discord of just a little screenshot of like, thank you for the donation, before I forget. But yeah, just wanted to mention that of like, we mentioned it, done it, like just to mention is like, hey, we want to be.
It's not our money.
It's not. We don't see it as that way yet. So thank you all.
There's the other one as well
on Patreon.
For thank you for supporting us on Patreon
and helping us being able to do that each month.
In a small way, you're helping support charities and like other content creators. In our small way, like we financially compensate them and hopefully give them a boost to our audience, even though chances are we've got a bigger audience than we have. But either way, like the other thing I wanted to mention as well is another line I was quite proud of. I was like, I'm not going to say the character's name, but the show offers numerous explanations for their abysmal success rate at convincing their wife to touch their penis, their cockcess rate, if you will. So that's what most of the effort's gone into, are thinking of funny ways to say sex. Of course it has. It's really difficult. How many can you think of?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not the one writing the script, right?
Like, honest to God, it's been the hardest part. So obviously, straight away, touch the Todge. That's really funny. That's one paragraph in. We've got more paragraphs.
You can't use touch the Todge that early. You got to save it, Karl.
Well, I had to lay in. How many euphemisms for sex can you think of? Because I can't use the same one.
No, and that's the thing. It wouldn't
be funny.
At least, like, that's the effort that you're putting in, right? Is that you realistically you could just reuse the same 5 euphemisms.
I could, yeah, but for myself,
but that's not what a good writer does.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that my effort into like making it sound funny and all these interesting ways of wording it will keep people like watching it and doing rewatches. Hopefully, like another propensity for penile excellence. That's a good one, right?
Well,
balls bluer than a drowned Smurf.
No, you can't use that one.
That's in the script.
Well, I can't stop you doing it. I can't censor Karl.
You can't censor me.
But Karl, what can be censored? Because I believe your wiki is basically about that, right?
Yeah. Oh man, just I can't believe. Like, so yeah, just keep an eye out on just content and places where I'm active to get like hints and suggestions for when I want to release the video. Where I definitively rank which dad has the highest like cocksmithing level, right? It's all
Release
good.
the
But either way,
Smallwood
so
Cup.
it's like it's a topic that I've been interested in for a while.
Yeah, I know.
And I explain in the video why I was inspired to make it, because it sounds like a very specific, weird thing to want to talk about. But it was just a question that I thought to myself, went, has anyone ever answered this? No, they haven't. I want to answer it. But anyway, so the topic I brought forward for discussion today is Scalebound, a cancelled game. But I didn't expect yours to go as dour as it did. So
I
maybe we'll
didn't
just
either, but you know, Wrath Month is getting to me, Karl.
Wrath Month, yes, indeed. So, Scalebound was an action role playing game developed by Platinum Games. The fact it's using like past tense as well was. There's no hope of it ever coming out. It was cancelled in 2017 and was scheduled to be released for Windows and Xbox One. God damn it!
Yeah, this is a thing of like,
That was the start.
like when talking about Xbox fumbling the bag, this is not a new story. This presumably we'll obviously see from what the wiki says. Like the things I've always heard is that it was problems on the Xbox side of things. So like they've been spending 10+
Let's
years
find
just
out.
like fucking things up.
Yeah, so in the game, players would have assumed control of Drew. And that feels like a name that was, we're going to fix this later, but for
Yeah.
now, he's Drew.
Drew's not
And his
a
dragon
Dante,
partner,
right?
yeah, it's not. It doesn't stand out. Like, he's not gonna be, aha, the champion of the Xbox, Drew. And again, Clive. People love Clive.
No, people love Ben Starr.
And people like Clive. Fuck you, Clive's great.
Do you
So they would have
like
controlled
Clive?
Drew and his dragon partner, Thuban.
I have to ask, Carl, do you
Players
like
could you?
Clive? Do you like Clive?
No, Clive fucking sucks. He's a terrible, boring character who's just got a very charismatic voice actor.
Point proven.
Players could use a variety of weapons to defeat enemies and could issue commands to their dragon, which assisted players during battles. Unlike other games developed by Platinum Games, the game was to put more of a focus on graphical qualities and the role-playing aspects rather than action. So that's probably one of the other reasons it got cancelled. Of, hey, Platinum, you make sick, awesome, super saucy, stylish, swaggy character action games. You make like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, you made like Bayonetta, Wonderful 101, that like Avatar game that wasn't great but still had decent combat and snappy fluid
Vanquish?
movement. Vanquished. They worked on like a Ninja Turtles game, which kind of sucked, but it was
I
kind of
mean,
like, you know, hamstrung by developers.
Platinum
Action is
Games,
what they do.
like, Platinum Games do seem to have those projects which are the licensed ones to get the money that they just fart out, right?
Yeah, but even still, it's a shame because there's a couple of games they've worked on where they could have done something really interesting, and you can tell the reason they couldn't is because they were just hamstrung by the rights holders. For example, they made Transformers Devastation, which is fucking awesome.
True, yeah.
It never got a sequel, even though it ends with a sequel hook, but the game is awesome. It's very short, but I contend, as a fan of the genre, there's a great amount of replayability.
Well, let's think, like, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance isn't a long game, but it's a fucking great game.
Yeah, and I've replayed it basically every other week for the past 3 years over on Twitch.
Yeah,
It's
like,
just a really fun game. Action is what those guys do.
you know, when you boil it down and take out the cutscenes and stuff, I can get through the Resident Evil remakes in like an hour or two at a time, and that just makes them
Mhm.
even more replayable and fun to me.
And that's not a platinum game, but what we mean is, like, you know, a short game isn't necessarily a bad thing. And in regards to
Exactly, yeah.
platinum, a good action game is good. It's like, I think to Bayonetta 3, where I never want to replay Bayonetta 3 ever again, because just the most fun part of the game, the combat, is lost between dozens and dozens of on-rails quick time events that are just not fun to play.
That's the problem. Even if you skip the cutscenes in Bayonetta 3, it's still way more of a slog than 1 and 2 were, because all of those weird, like, other gamey elements, as you say, like all the on-rails stuff, like, it got amplified so much in 3 that it's half the game.
And in regards to Platinum working on like third-party projects, they worked on Ninja Turtles game, which could have been really fun. Like think like some of the stuff they've done, like style switching. You switch between the turtles, but you can tell that whoever owns the rights to the Ninja Turtles absolutely insists on having all 4 turtles on screen at the same time.
Which, can we talk about how weird it is in the new Tony Hawks that there's only one turtle? Like, they
You're
have
not just like it's the easiest fucking model switch ever. Just change the color of the bandana.
the only one of the 4 turtles you can play as in the new Tony Hawks remake is Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. Because he's the only one who can skateboard technically, but
Oh,
Darth Maul can't
fuck
fucking
it.
skateboard and is in one of the games.
Yeah, Django Fett never showed off their like skateboarding
Then we don't know.
capabilities.
We don't know what the fuck he was up to when he wasn't being Django Fett. He might have learned to skateboard.
But
We don't know.
just change the color of the bandanas, please.
Yes, it's the easiest thing ever, but in regards to like Platinum, they made a Ninja Turtles game. You could tell that they were told all 4 turtles have to be on screen at all times.
Yeah.
Because you can see a game where like Devil May Cry 4 style switching was just you switch between the turtles. And just each turtle is a different fighting style. And that game would have whipped ass. But no, all 4 turtles are on screen at the same time. In every scene, and it slows the game down because the entire game was built around having 4 characters on screen. So if you played it solo, they didn't have the time to scale bosses. So you would play it solo as one turtle, but you've got to fight a boss who's got a life bar designed to be fought by 4 people at once.
Yeah, and
it just takes all day.
I was gonna say, like, I think in like Injustice 2, they were okay with you just fighting as like turtle swapping turtles, right? Which is a bit different because it's a one-on-one fighting game, but still.
Like, you pick the lead turtle and the other turtles come in and help, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a way of like picking each individual turtle as the main with
you pick each individual, they have their own moveset.
Right? Yeah.
And the other turtles all help. Yeah, just you can tell, and like I said, the boss fights were designed to be fought by 4 characters at once, but they never balanced it because they didn't have the time. So every boss has like 4 times the health. Because if you played as 4, if it was like add to the health for a single player, and 4 people went in, you'd womp its ass in 3 seconds. Also, as well, because it was designed to be fought by a group of 4 people. Like the bosses don't have like fun, interesting one-on-one movesets. It's just like big area of effect attacks.
And that was one thing that really scared me when Scalebound was showed off for like, I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd time when they showed off that big like flying dragon fight with 4 people online, and it just didn't look fun.
It looked really slow.
Yeah.
And it's one last thing that they worked on that also could have been awesome, but just didn't have enough time in the oven. They worked on an Avatar game. And again, you can easily see a game if they had like more time, where 4 fighting styles, the 4 bending styles, 4 movesets. Fluid, like as you go through the game, learn a new bending style each time. By the end of the game, you can like effortlessly switch between all 4 styles at once, like Dante does with his like Trickster. I know I'm saying like Devil May Cry, even though Platinum didn't work on that, but
a lot of people that worked on Devil May Cry span off into Platinum games, right?
Yeah.
And they clearly have
It's been a well-established trope of the genre
and skills there because they made Bayonetta ostensibly built around style switching with different weapons. And it is a question of how much is it the IP holder wanting a limited budget game and stuff, and how much is it Platinum Games going, we can make this a quick project to get some money? We don't know.
I can't imagine though, like if you would give like the Transformers one just feels so, there's so much polish to it. It's so snappy and there's so much love. I would love for other fans of other IPs to have had the Transformers Devastation for their thing. Like, I would have loved this to be like Ninja Turtles Devastation or Avatar: The Last Airbender Devastation.
Yeah, totally.
And they could have like their thing in that style.
And again, it's hard to know where the line is drawn, right, of who is responsible for those less quality games coming out like the Avatar one, but it's certainly not that Platinum Games aren't capable of making great games, because they clearly are.
Exactly. And so the gameplay for Scalebound, it was an action role-playing game played in the 3rd person, which players can assume control of Drew as he progressed through the world of Draconis. Yeah, this This was cancelled early enough in development where those words hadn't been finalised yet.
Like, it wasn't early though, I don't think, because as I mentioned, like I think they showed this game off multiple years in a row.
Giant enemy fucking crap. Like I said, one of the things that made me want to get an Xbox One.
One, yeah.
Yeah, because it looks awesome. So
it was
Drew
gonna
and
be an
Thuban are
exclusive, I
bonded
think.
together. So Drew and Thuban are bonded together. Thuban's death would cause Drew to die, as well as Drew killing Thuban. Which, you know what? That's a gameplay mechanic that I'd have fucking like hatched that shit out. Because if you have an AI partner where if they die, you die, that shit sucks. The Ninja Gaiden 2 remake thing, where they have the ninja trials, but you can only play them with AI partners,
Oh, I
and the
remember
AI
you saying
partner
that
just
on
fucking dies all the
stream.
time.
Yeah, because like you were
If I
streaming a bit of
lost the
it
game when my AI partner I can't control died, I'd be like, this game fucking sucks.
because it used to be an online multiplayer mode, but then they took out the online, right?
Yeah. Like, and rather than letting you play it solo, it's like you're going to give you a shitty AI partner who can't block or parry.
And they would just
Deal with it.
run into death.
Yeah, it's to the point where all the speed runs of it immediately let their AI partner die and just do it on their own. Anyway, so Thuban is usually controlled by AI, but players can give commands to the dragon when performing attacks. Drew can enter the Dragon Link mode, allowing the player to directly control the dragon from his perspective. In this mode, the perspective will shift to first person.
Have you got anything on in the background, by the way? 'Cause you're going in and out of blur dimension.
I don't have anything in the background now, but maybe just, getting late in the day, maybe like my neighbours are streaming Netflix or something.
I don't know, but yeah, apologies that we're doing our best. Like we're trying to keep things going through Discord, but yeah, just every now and then, Karl just enters that blur dimension.
The blur dimension, yes, and the dragon could be ridden, though not at the beginning of the game, and can perform special elemental attacks with Berserker mode. There's some elements here I like the sound of, but also there's some stuff where I'd be like, if this was like Bayonetta 3, and they had like big on rails control this lumbering big ass dragon for 5 minutes,
yeah,
that could have been real bad.
And again, I was very disappointed in that demo that was the player demo where that seemingly was a big part of the game, was flying around co-op fighting a boss with a massive health bar as you just like slowly fire fireballs from the dragon. Like there were definitely elements that either needed complete reworking or at very least touching up.
That's it. We're never going to know, are we?
No, that's the thing, is like that's what a game in progress looks like. It's in progress.
For me, it's one of the biggest what ifs because I'm such a fan of like Platinum games and the genre of character action as a whole. It's just one of those. If it had released, would it have been as good as it looked, or would it have been like say like Bayonetta 3, where it's too ambitious in its scope and there's too many things going on? Yeah. Where just the one thing I want to play the game for, the really rock solid action, there's just not enough of that.
Because that's the thing, is like Bayonetta 3, it didn't run the best either, which is what you want out of a character action game, is like
because there's too much shit on screen, yeah.
Absolutely silky frame rate, which Bayonetta 3 did not necessarily have. But like Bayonetta 3 at its core,
Bayonetta 2 did that.
Is still Bayonetta, and it still feels great to use all those cool creative weapons in a fight with a bunch of angels and demons and stuff, but it was all the extra bullshit. And although the other character, I can't remember their name, who had Cheshire,
Viola,
they were powerful, but they weren't as fun to play.
They did get fixed. There was like a big patch that fixed a bunch of their stuff. For example, like the parry window on Viola's parry was incredibly punishing for no discernible reason. Because the thing about Bayonetta is that the invincibility frames on her dodge is you've got all day. You can stand up and make a cup of tea. A perfect like dodge does give you a benefit, and that is difficult to do. But you can still dodge with fairly decent timing. For no particular reason, Viola's parry window was really punishing. And as a result, and it's where most of her damage came from. Also, when you blocked with her, she couldn't dodge offset, so her combo instantly stopped every time you tried to dodge or block.
Okay,
yeah. It just wasn't fun to do.
Because like that's the thing, as you
But they
mentioned,
fixed it and made it so you could.
Bayonetta has extremely forgiving time if you just want to dodge and get a bit of witch time going off, right?
Yes.
It's
Well,
really
you
not
couldn't
that
do that with
difficult.
but with
Viola.
Viola, she didn't dodge, she blocked, which also meant that, like, with Bayonetta, her dodge means that she's constantly fluidly moving around the battle. She's constantly repositioning, and the enemy is chasing her, and you always like have the ability to like flank or get around the enemy. With Viola, you stand stock still in the middle and stand
Yeah.
still, which could be cool. Like Royal Guard is fucking awesome, but it wasn't Royal Guard.
And also, I feel like maybe
Anyway,
they could have built more mechanics of like one-on-one fights into Viola's campaign. Maybe
yes,
if that was the case, where like it still was just crowds of enemies, like you're fighting as Bayonetta.
yes, like they could have like differentiated the combat by making her like more like one-on-one, because one-on-one fights with her are really fun, because it's like, you do a perfect parry and she does like the cool thing that characters do, like slashing straight through the enemy instantly in like blade mode or in witch
Mm.
time, and then you get to want their ass, and that feels really satisfying. But it's difficult to do when there's like 500 enemies on screen.
Yeah, and half the enemies just die the moment you parry them.
Exactly. But speaking of like cool mechanics or like, stuff that sucks ass, depending on how you look at it, the weapons in the game would eventually become degraded and lose their durability. Character action games shouldn't have durability systems.
Not character action games. Like, I'm a person who sits
And say
there and
sword shouldn't break.
like I defend Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom to the absolute hill. That is a hill I will die on. Of like, for that game, durability
It
works,
works.
but not for a fucking character action game. No.
Then again, though, and this is why it's a big what if, the Devil Breaker system in Devil May Cry 5, that does work.
Oh, I hate it.
You hated it on the first playthrough, but for someone who's replayed the game multiple times, the only problem with the Devil Breaker, so the Devil Breaker is in Devil May Cry 5, Nero has a robot arm, and your robot arm gives you different effects, and it can break, but you can find them on the fucking ground. You can also at any point just detonate it whenever you want because you don't like it. The biggest problem with the Devil Breaker is that they didn't have enough of them on the ground.
I was gonna say, I felt like I was always struggling to have any level of stock of them. And
Yes, that was the thing. They should have.
you have those like super moves that delete the like they use up the arm, and I never wanted to use any of them because I never had any fucking devil breakers.
Yes, the issue I would have with them is enemies should have dropped them. If they'd have made it so enemies, like a big crowd of enemies, drop like 2 or 3 Devil Breakers, you'll be burning through that shit all the time, and it would have encouraged players to be more liberal with their use of Devil Breakers. But because the game doesn't, it gives you like one every like 4 or 5 screens, you are unintentionally being taught to never use them, which is the opposite of what they want from gameplay.
That's what I ended up doing, is barely using any of them at any point, especially I'd say the super moves that broke them, because I wanted to be drowning in Devil Breakers, not scrimping onto one at a time.
If they'd have given, I think that's one flaw of the game. So I could see like the weapon degradation system working well if, for example, just Bayonetta can pick up random angel weapons. Again, that's a cool system, right? Bayonetta can pick up an angel weapon and get a new move set, but you can only use that weapon for like 4 or 5 hits.
Yeah,
I could see that working. Then again, I can also see it not working.
There's definitely a way that I'm sure you could make it work, but it doesn't initially sound appealing.
Like, similarly, something that could have worked but also couldn't have worked is there was going to be a system where you could swing onto and climb on large enemies to perform attacks. That could have either been slow as fuck and been like Monster Hunter, which is cool in Monster Hunter, but Monster Hunter's a slow or deliberate game of like, or it could have been like Vanquish, remember like Vanquish or like Revengeance, where you just sprint up the enemy's neck and just punch him in the face.
Yeah,
and knock him over.
Obviously, it's a bit more of a scripted thing, but that was my favorite thing in Metroid Other M, that you basically got finisher animations.
That should be the fact that that's the coolest thing about Other M, and they never brought it back. I've talked about how like that new Metroid game. Folks at home, let me know if you think this sounds cool. Because for me, I don't want to play a new Metroid game, because as soon as I imagined this Metroid game I'm about to describe, I'm like, nothing will ever compete. When I saw that first like reveal of it, Metroid 4, right?
Metroid Prime 4.
Metroid Prime 4 sound going pew, pew, pew. There was just a moment, and I don't know why I did this to myself, where an enemy flashed, and for a split second, I thought Samus was going to do a glory kill. And then she doesn't. She just goes pew, 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 and it looks fun. But in my head, I'm like, oh, holy shit! If Samus was doing glory kills, this would be perfect.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, I think something like Metroid Prime Remastered would be an interesting one for us to kind of like play through together, because I think both of us want it to be a first-person shooter, but it's actually an exploration game. So I think
Which I'm happy with. Like
it's just not what I want out of. I want
a
Metroid to
Samus
be
game. Yeah.
like
In my head,
a cool, fast, fluid shooter if it's going to be an FPS, not like a slow exploration-based game.
for me, Samus isn't a character who moves slowly. Samus hauls the most ass ever, and it's a shame that the best gameplay we've had for a 3D game is Other M, where Samus is like fucking picking up Kraid by his tail and throwing him into like she's doing what Raiden does to Rey.
Yeah.
And like, oh, can you imagine? Oh god, imagine a platinum fucking Metroid game where Samus is doing Raiden shit.
That's the thing, right? Is like I want Samus to feel like Samus feels in Metroid Dread. I don't want them to feel like a tank. I want them to feel like they are super nimble and agile and an absolute fucking badass.
Like Samus doing glory kills. I
Yeah.
either want her doing glory kills or I want her doing like she does in Other M, where she's like climbing onto Kraid's mouth and just shooting directly into it with super missiles.
That's the thing is, Metroid as a first-person shooter, in my brain, should be like Doom Eternal, where Samus is fucking flying about at 100 miles an hour.
Or Titanfall. Not with the Titans, but Samus should be moving
Yeah.
like the pilots in Titanfall.
Yeah, true, yeah. With like the grappling
Do you know
beam and
how fucking fast you go.
wall running and
Can you,
shit.
can you imagine as well? Because that's the thing. And I imagine they didn't do that in earlier Metroid Prime games, just because that wasn't a thing. It'd been too new. It'd been too hard for players to
Like,
realize, right? Like you
Metroid
look at
Prime
old
1,
first-person shooters compared to like Call of Duty now.
like yeah, Metroid Prime 1 was coming out at the time when Halo Combat Evolved was. Like, there wasn't even an
Yep.
established way to really do console first-person shoot.
Yeah, there wasn't like most console shooters didn't even have a fucking sprint button because that was deemed to be too complicated.
Yeah, exactly. And like you
Which,
think about around that time, obviously Metroid had a lock on because they felt they needed that, but there was like that infamous like not infamous, but kind of going back, people resurfaced a review for like an Aliens first person shooter where
yeah,
they
it's
shat
an
on
Alien
like,
Resurrection shooter.
they were annoyed at like how complicated having two sticks to control the aiming and
Yes.
running and stuff was.
So most first-person shooters like use one stick. That's for movement. The other stick is to aim. It was it's Alien Resurrection for the PlayStation 1. Utilized the DualShock controller to do that. And there's a review of like, this is terrible, it'll never catch on. And now it's the default.
And that
So
was
too
kind
new.
of mostly the mentality at the time, right? And that's the
Well,
kind of
you said
environment that Metro Prime was coming out in.
yeah, like you said, they give it a lock on because, you know, the level of fidelity and or like player fidelity and input wasn't deemed to be high enough to like do twitch shooting on like a controller. And now it is. And I said just with the benefit of like seeing games like that can handle really fast fluid movement and verticality, like Doom Eternal or Titanfall. I just look at that Metroid like Prime 4 footage and it looks so slow.
It looks like a Metroid Prime game, so I'm happy for Metroid Prime fans, but it doesn't look like a modern shooter game in any stretch of the imagination.
It doesn't know, but you know, we move back now to Scalebound. So Drew has a dragon arm, the Devil Bringer baby, which can scan and shapeshift. Or you can scan enemies' information, unleash a large pulse of energy, and heal his dragon companion. So effectively, it could have been the Devil Breaker system. The player can shapeshift into a half dragon hybrid, so he had like Devil Trigger, Dragon Trigger. When he shapeshift, his abilities will be significantly strengthened. There's also skill points that can be used to level up skills and abilities.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like how much. Obviously, there's player overlapping as they like the teams of like people were working at Capcom. A lot of them moved over to Platinum Games and stuff, but like it's kind of crazy to see that. Yeah, even the idea of like they probably, I think the Devil Bringer was probably already made Devil May Cry 4 by the time Platinum were working on this, but like them just looking at that and going, yeah, let's create from Devil May Cry, and then Devil May Cry looking at bit
The
of
Devil
like
Bringer is one of the coolest fucking things. Yeah.
Bayonetta and Metal Gear and stuff, and being like the Metal Gear Rising, and just being like, yeah, let's create bits from that and bring that into Devil May Cry.
Well, something we have some information here about the development. So it was under development by Platinum Games. The concept for the game was created when they established in 2006, but they decided to develop Bayonetta instead. The studio attempts to repitch the game after Bayonetta was completed and a prototype was made but failed to generate interest. The studio moved on to develop its next project, Wonderful 101. When the development for Wonderful 101 was finished, the idea for Scalebound was revised yet again, and development began in 2013.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that the Bayonetta of all games that somebody wouldn't be latching on to Platinum, because yeah, Bayonetta didn't really sell great to begin with. It's never been a
But
massive
the
seller.
reviews were like, this is one of the greatest like examples of this genre. This is like redefined the character action genre. This is now the standard. If it's not top in this, it's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly right. And just
How did someone not see that and go, we need to get whatever they want to pitch us, fucking gain the money?
sorry, Karl is lagging a little bit at times. So little bits of audio may be cut out. Obviously, there is an audio version that we put out where hopefully things won't be the case because we called isolated, but I do apologise about that. There's a little bit of breaking up going on, but yeah, like Bayonetta did, as you say, just completely, maybe not redefine a genre, but it was the defining game in the genre for a time.
Yes, and like there's a couple of like bits of like information here from the development side. So Scalebound would be the first action RPG developed by Platinum. Kamiya, Hideki Kamiya, the guy who was directing it, described the game as a dream come true, having always wanted to create a game where dragons and the players are companions as opposed to being enemies.
It's a cool idea, right? Like, just I think we all can agree being best buddies with a dragon as you kill cool shit. It sounds fun.
Absolutely rad as shit, yeah. And they said that Thuban, the dragon, could be customized extensively while the main character of Drew could not. And that would have allowed them to differentiate for the main thrust of the game, which would have been multiplayer. So you'd have gone online and seen other Thubans.
I actually don't mind the idea of, no, we've designed a main character, but have fun with your dragon.
Yeah, your dragon can look however the fuck you want. Because obviously, like, you go see someone else's dragon and be like, oh, that's a rad looking dragon.
Yeah,
I want to team up with that dragon, right? Like, I want the dragon equivalent of Let Me Solo Her. Got a little pot on his head and everything.
like I'm always an expert of like, I want customization for my characters in my video games. I always enjoy being able to customize a character, but I respect the idea of, no, we designed a main character that we want, but you're allowed to customize your companion.
Yeah. It's always a shame though when the main character that they intended fucking sucks, right? Like Karl Kestis. Like,
Oh, just sorry. I think it's like Cameron Monaghan, right? Like, they seem like they really give a shit about Cal, and they seem like a cool person, but Karl Kestis, like, dear God, when we're talking about boring protagonists.
Like, get your ass out of here, like default protagonist, man. Like, I thought he was a default protagonist when I first saw all those trailers and thought, well, surely they're gonna let you pick an alien, right? He's just like default white dude for the audience. Surely they're gonna let me play as like a fucking Twi'lek or something.
He might as well just be like the generic Commander Shepard that they put on the box with zero customization, right?
Yeah.
Fuck it, here's Bland Man.
Are you ready though, Lucas? Instead of a dragon, Platinum originally hoped to feature dinosaurs in the game.
Oh no!
And the thing is though, have you followed development of that dude who's making the T-Rex character action game?
Every now and then I'll see like a little update, yeah.
It started life as like he went, oh, I'm learning like modeling and rigging. So he's a T-Rex doing like Omni Slash with the Buster Blade. And I was like, that's fucking rad. So he's made an entire character action game where you're a T-Rex with a sword.
Yeah, and just the idea of, imagine making that animation and having to question whether people would want that to be a video game. Would you not just have thought, second one, like, I'm onto something here?
The one that looks cool is the guy who did that with a tank, and it's a tank character action game, and he like goes onto its like turret and spins around.
I think one of my favorite ones that I've seen. I don't think it was a particularly notable game, but I love like watching the animations of it, and I think it was like a very cool idea. Is the squirrel with a gun game? And it was just a game where you're playing a regular sized
Oh
squirrel,
yeah,
but
like
you've got like the fucking just the handgun that's like twice the size of you.
I'm not the biggest fan of that game, but I did like again the animation of it double jumping by shooting the gun directly downwards. That's really fun.
Exactly. Right, like there's I don't necessarily know how well the game came together as a game, but like there's a lot of cool ideas for like animations and different stylings of a squirrel with a fucking gun, right?
It's like Transformers Devastation, where okay, it's a character action game, but this is a game where you turn into vehicles, and they could have gone the route of well, you turn into a vehicle during on rails turret sections, which there's like thankfully only a couple of in the game. Instead, they say no. Combo finishers are your transformer turning into their car selves, and we're justifying it being a combo finisher by saying they're more compact. So, for example, like you'll like womp someone's ass as Optimus Prime with like your cool sword that fires lasers, and then you'll turn into a truck to just crash into them for the final hit.
Yeah, because like there's, I think I remember maybe it was like Bumblebee, like just fucking Tokyo drifts on their ass when the combo, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, oh, instead of like doing an uppercut motion, your car just you turn into a car and do a backflip. Why not? Why the fuck not? Right? In that vein, Luke, and you think like, what random creature or object would you want to be the protagonist of a character action game? It's like, there's that dinosaur one where the dinosaur's got a buster sword, the tank one, squirrel with a fucking gun.
Yeah, there's
Can you think of any?
I remember playing the demo for like or aggro crab or something like that. It's just like the Dark Souls game where like there's like a crab with like just little bits that they find, like a hermit crab or whatever, and they just find bits on the ocean floor, weapons and stuff. And I think that's another game where like the accessibility easy mode was just give them a gun. I'm like, yeah, just give the crab a
Do you
gun.
know what I want? This might exist somewhere. Give the crab a gun. Give everything a gun. Is one where you play as a ghost. I want a character action game where you're a ghost, and I want the mechanic of you don't block, just things go through you. I want that to be like your parry animation. Like you parry by like turning intangible for a split second so swords go through you.
I wasn't sure whether you were going to go
But
down.
when you do that, you drop all your swords.
Fair, yeah. I thought you might be going down the route of like.
I've thought about it a little bit,
mechanics.
and my idea would be like, no, because that'd be too. Maybe you could put possession mechanic, but in my head it'd be you have one of two choices. Because like normally, games like this, you have like Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like you be a ghost or you be a samurai. But it's like you can armor up and be slow and powerful, or you can just phase out of it and become a ghost, and you do less damage. You're really fast. Oh, like there's more that can be done with that idea, but
Yeah, fair. Like, I don't know. I guess like off the top of my head, if we're talking creatures, I would find it really interesting to either do something where it was like, yeah, again, you prompted me this just off the top of my head without thinking about it, but like something where you're either flying or swimming as your main character. So like,
yeah.
you were like a fucking eagle or you're a dolphin or some shit like that, where just the medium is therefore changed and you're not just doing combos like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry are very different games, but they're also very similar games because ultimately you're playing as like this character who is very grounded for most of the time and doing combos with like swords and guns. I would really
Do you want
like
to think of work as well?
mixing it up a lot.
I want like bring back Blood Rain, give it to Platinum, and I'm not sure if Blood Rain had werewolves in it, but make it so that you choose the path of a werewolf or a vampire, and they're your two fighting styles. Like Joe, like Blood Rain, the mechanic was like the more damage you do, the more blood you get absorbed and you get powered up. Give me like a Blood Rain fighting game, and instead of a Devil Bringer, it's you like you bite.
You want it to be
and give me like 50 different animations of draining someone's blood.
like, do you want it to be Blood Rain or do you want to make it? What was that Kate Beckinsale movie? Was it just called like Underworld or something like that?
Underworld. Well, if you can get under the Underworld license, do that. But Blood Rain's already a video game. I'm thinking like a vampire / werewolf character action game.
it would be a good excuse to be like, hey, we're gonna get like Kate Beckinsale in a catsuit as your main protagonist. Like, I wouldn't be mad.
Do you think, like, the character, whoever is the main character of Blood Rain, is wearing much less than that? If that's your concern.
That was not my concern.
Like, yeah, you can see it in your head though, can't you? Like a vampire character action game where like the gimmick is you have to like get all the blood and you get powered. Or the werewolf one where you play as a werewolf and you just like put
Yeah,
in like the system from like Ninja Gaiden where it's about dismembering people and the wolf like bites arms off and stuff, gets more powerful.
it's like you could do one, for example, like if you want to use again like Van Helsing game, but you're not playing as Van Helsing, you're playing as like somebody that can like choose to go down the path of becoming a werewolf to help fight vampires or some shit like that, right?
To be fair, a Van Helsing character action game would be fucking rad, where like your boss fights are just various like mythological monsters like a vampire, a werewolf, a big mummy.
Yeah, it would be really cool. You just wouldn't be able to, as the Van Helsing character, presumably any of those. You wouldn't be able to like utilize their power set because I think that's pretty against the
True.
idea of the Van Helsing character. I don't think they
But
would
you could
be
do like
willing
you
to
could God of
embrace
War
that.
it. You could God of War it though and have like your character pick up an object slash weapon from each of the enemies that you defeat.
True, yeah, like objects of power from those different, like random creatures, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
There's
man. Oh, do you know what, a mummy character action game
okay. Yeah.
with where you play as like Brendan Fraser.
But does Brendan Fraser get any cool power ups or is he just a dude with gun?
No, do you know what his ultimate movie when he throws that fucking chair? That'd be the gimmick. Throwing shit in the environment. Drink
Yeah.
Sifu. I guess we have to give it to the Sifu developers instead of Platinum, but do you like the Sifu game?
Yeah.
The fact they made that football sequel instead of saying, no, fuck it, double down on the Sifu mechanic and let me pick up any objects in the environment.
True. However, Rematch as like a different project is a very fun game. It's like it's weird
It's
to
interesting,
say
but give me Sifu too.
it's weird to say that it's Rocket League with people because you would imagine that's FIFA, but because you're only controlling one individual person and thinking about your positioning and yourself way more, like it feels
Yeah.
more like Rocket League than any other football game.
I still think they should have done a sequel to Sifu.
Oh yeah, no, I would have preferred C2 rather
Sifu,
than
but you're a
Fifu.
vampire. Sifu, but you're a vampire.
Like, I adore...
And every time you die, you come back and you get more vampire powers.
I adore Sifu, and I remember, like, it's one of those things where you playing it, be like, the game's designed to, like, kind of beat you down to begin with, which I do agree with. But it's really fascinating because I remember getting it on, like, it came to Game Pass after I'd already played through a lot of it on PlayStation. Like, what's it like for someone who has, 20, 30 hours in Sifu to then go on a fresh start? And I was able to just clown on the first mission, like second one, and don't have as many available, but you still learn the systems.
My main issue with Sifu, it's something that could have been fixed with one patch, is it feels incredibly unsatisfying to unlock an ability, die, and then have to re-unlock that ability. And you do permanently unlock an ability after you've unlocked it 5 times. Just give me the ability to, once I've unlocked it once, clearly they wanted roguelike elements in there, but the fact that if I played Hades, and it's like, okay, you've got to unlock this weapon, you've got to do 5 complete runs before you can unlock this one weapon. It's like, no, fuck off, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, no, it is annoying to have to put points into the same ability 5 times rather than just...
It just doesn't feel satisfying.
Unlock an ability, yeah. And it just
Like,
feels
even
like...
if it is just, let me unlock it, but I can put another point into it to power it up for this run, that's fine, but that felt incredibly unsatisfying because it meant that you die and you'd literally be put back to 0 sometimes if you didn't put all 5 level ups into unlocking the same move instead of trying out new moves.
Right. Like, it encourages you to only focus on gaining one ability at a time because then you perma unlock it rather than letting you experiment immediately. And that is something where it feels like the skill tree was like added out a little bit for the sake of that. But yeah.
because like the skill tree wasn't big enough because you could probably complete that after like 2 or 3 runs at the first level, and then you'd be like you'd have an end game Sifu character, and there's not much more to get after that. Do you know what that could have been fixed by? A fucking sequel where you play as a vampire. Imagine a werewolf one. Where every time you die, you come back and you get more werewolf powers. By the end of it, you're a fucking werewolf. Let's go.
Oh, like a werewolf or vampire roguelike would be really fun. I don't know why you've like ascribed this to Sifu specifically, but Sifu
I'm
is
just
just a
thinking,
fun
like,
game,
because
right?
Sifu's one-on-one combat,
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, do you know, like the cool parry that you do in Sifu? It's like, bam! I imagine that, but when you parry, like, you steal the enemy's blood.
yeah, like it. When you get past that barrier, it's such a good game.
It's one of the coolest things you can do in Sifu, though, is when you run through that first level and just you don't stop.
Yeah, that's what I love is that you can get to a point where your momentum basically never fucking stops. Like obviously for the boss fights, they're a bit slower paced because they got chunky health
Also, the
bars,
boss
but
fights kind of suck. I don't like how you can clearly tell there's certain points in the fight where it's that thing I hate in all character action games of you can't hurt the boss. Just the boss decides you're not allowed to hurt me now. Like that first one, Joey jumps into the shadows. And
I
there's just
mean,
certain points where the game decides you're not allowed to hit the boss anymore.
yeah, I get that, but like that's not a common occurrence. Like most boss fights are just if you're skilled enough, you can basically just wail on them the entire
You
time.
can once you figure out like the ways to cheese it, which I did eventually figure out, but I remember it being really frustrating of like there's only you need to do one very specific thing to make it so the boss is vulnerable.
Essentially, each one is teaching a different mechanic of the game, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like I can understand that, but there's not many bosses apart from the first one that outright become invulnerable apart from having multiple phases.
Yeah. It did make me think though, I really, really want this. I want this mechanic, this gameplay, polished to a mirror sheen. And slap any fucking skin on it that you want, I'll buy it.
Yeah, like it's a it's a great example of a game that starts out frustrating, but when you master it, it's fine to play.
Yeah. So you can like any skin on that, any character, any gimmick, just with that core gameplay, I'm down.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't mind that rematches a game. Like I've enjoyed the few hours I've put into it. I would have much rather gotten a follow up to Sifu.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe we'll get that one day. But either way, yeah, that's scale bound. Because all it really says is the final bit is according to a later interview with Hideki Kamiya. A lot of the features and gameplay systems were eventually recycled from Scalebound and reworked for Bayonetta 3, which is very, very clear.
Very
When
obvious.
you look
Yeah,
at the Bayonetta 3 like a slave system, which is
and
probably not the best way they could have worded it.
no, not. Is there anything that mentions like where it kind of fell apart in the like
It
kind of
mentions that the
cancellation?
initial deal between the initial deal between Platinum and Microsoft was facilitated by agent Ben Judd. The official game was announced at Microsoft Studios press conference in 2014 with a cinematic trailer. It missed 2015, but the gameplay was shown at Gamescom alongside Crackdown 3 and Quantum Break. The game's 4-player co-op multiplayer system was also announced. Scalebound was set to be released worldwide for Xbox, but was delayed to 2017. It was then cancelled on January 9th of that year. So there's no reason it got announced. There's no reason stated here. But we do have a quote from Platinum Studio head at Sushi Inaba, who said, "It wasn't easy to see publisher Microsoft receive criticism for the decision as he felt, and I quote, both sides failed, and that ultimately, and I quote once again, didn't do all the things that we needed the game to do."
It that kind of line feels very similar to the PlayStation relationship with From Software when it comes to Bloodborne, of like them both passing the buck to each other when
Yeah.
they're asked like, "Well, what about Bloodborne 2?" And it's like Platinum going, "Kind of PlayStation's fault," and PlayStation going, "It's kind of Platinum's fault."
Yep, here we go. In a later 2020 interview, Inaba said that while Scalebound remains the intellectual property of Microsoft, Platinum Games would be open to return to it if given the opportunity to do so, which is just the most default stock answer, right, you can give of, would you return to Scalebound? Yeah. Never say no. Never
Yeah.
give a declarative statement in a press release or an interview, because then you'll be held to it. Just
Yeah,
be as wishy-washy as you possibly can. Like, would you return to this project if given a chance? Absolutely. Have you
it's
heard anything? No.
again very similar to Bloodborne of like asking like Kamiya and stuff like that of like no, not Kamiya, sorry,
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, thank you. Of like, so what's going on with like potential Bloodborne? It's like, well, we would totally be down for it, but you know, we just don't have that opportunity. And PlayStation being like, yeah, they're not interested. They're too busy.
Just never give an authoritative declarative statement because you'll be held to it. It's business 101, baby. Don't do an Elon Musk and say you're fired
Yeah.
today.
Don't say
Just say I'm
that we're
looking
going to
into
bring
it.
you a perfect dart game and then not deliver. Right?
Yeah. Just say we're looking into it. One of the single most valuable statements you can learn. I didn't learn business from school or anything. I just picked it up from like life. It's like really, really good statement and just all-purpose phrase you can use in business is. We'll see.
Yeah. It's the no comment without saying no comment, right?
No comment is you don't say no comment because no comment can be read poorly. Just saying it's not something being discussed at this time. Done.
Yeah. It's one of the many classic answers that people who are clearly media trained are told to do. And basically, when people say that are media trained, it's just that they've been told ways to avoid questions in interviews. That's what
They
media
have that.
training means, basically.
I said they have that person who's doing the job that I think I'd be good at. Shut the fuck up. It's like oh, they're asking me a question. Shut up.
And that's the thing, right? Is like, it sounds really stupid when you say that people need to be trained to shut the fuck up. But there's many, many examples of people not shutting the fuck up when they probably should have done and probably should have had that person on their shoulder.
Hey Lucas, this is remember that person who was accused of like, hey, did you like facilitate the touching of some kids? It's like, well, my lawyer told me not to say anything, but they didn't tell me I couldn't sing it. It's like, oh, what are you doing?
Dear fucking God, we weren't being literal when we told you that you can't talk about it.
The worst bit about that is you can tell they thought they were being really clever, and they as well. It's just the perfect encapsulation of this is someone who clearly been in that bubble for so long they've never been told to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and I
Of
have to imagine that whatever PR person or lawyer or whatever they spoke to at the time saw that video and just like curled up into a ball underneath their desk and cried like, what the fuck are you doing?
I think the weirdest one is that dipshit who was being sued by Billy Mitchell, and
Oh
they
yes.
they announced on their like Discord of like when they lost because it turns out that Billy Mitchell actually hired a real fucking lawyer. They'd fed all of the court transcripts into ChatGPT and it told them they'd win, and that's what they hinged their entire defense on. It's like, what are you doing? All you had to do was say it with me, folks. Shut the fuck up. And I think we should take that advice right now, Lucas. I think we talked enough, right?
Yeah, I think we are.
We need to isolate that sound clip, right, and just play it. We need it as like a button we can press. Like Joe and when Karl don't talk about it, it's like shut. Oh,
I needed that last week when Karl nearly with Cape shit.
just shut the fuck
Just
up.
no, push the button. Just the stop
It's a
button.
really good button to press.
Yeah. Thing is,
Like, your silence will never be controversial, and if it is, it's never been more controversial than opening your mouth and saying something stupid.
yeah, and there are certainly like small like a small amount of examples where staying quiet is the worst option. But generally
It seldom is,
speaking,
though.
saying something stupid is always worse than being quiet.
Because then there's something to point to. Like, never forget Haley Welch, right? The Hawk Tour girl. She did a rug pull for like a meme coin, and just on a Twitter like Spaces call went, you know what? I'm tired of talking about this. I'm going to bed, and just logged off for 2 weeks and came back and talked about it as if nothing had gone wrong.
Yeah,
Just you know what?
I'm out.
Fair play to her. Just I'm going to bed.
It's like
What? No, No, answer my question. Answer my questions. Me, weird Twitter man who's demanding answers. No, I'm going to bed.
I still remember people had a field day when No Man's Sky came out and Hello Games basically just turned the lights off and hid under their desk.
Yeah.
And
You know
everyone
what,
just
though? It
went
worked.
fucking silent for a while. And look at them now. Look at No Man's Sky now, right?
At the time, was very funny, and people were like demanding answers, but they didn't. They didn't answer the door. They didn't answer the emails. They didn't feed the trolls. They just went to bed. It's like the best friends used to say back in the day of just, if we all just climb under a big pile of coats and wait this thing out, eventually it'll work out. Because eventually people will forget that you're under the coats. And it's warm under the coats.
That's the thing, like, you know, we live in a world where 24-hour news cycle exists in every small niche community. Like, give it a day or two and there'll be new drama.
It's the Lucas, just it's warm under the coats. It's great advice. It's actually kind of reassuring, right? That no matter how bad you fuck up, no matter how badly you fuck up, like we just used the example of someone who was like accused of the most like heinous crime imaginable, and it gets talked about now as a punchline rather than being something that was career ruining. Kind of reassuring, right? There's almost no way to fuck up bad enough where you still can't come back.
I don't know enough. I never kept up enough with the story to know whether that was career ruining or not. But yeah, there's certainly plenty of examples of like he did his out there getting away with shit.
I think like there's almost nothing bad enough where you can't come back from it eventually.
Fortunately, as much as I wish that wasn't the case.
I'm choosing to look at it as a positive, Lucas. Not for that particular case, but I'm choosing to see it as like, hey, you at home, you might think this is like, if you make a silly mistake, it might be the end of the world for you, but eventually people will forget. If people can forget about some of the other shit.
Like, look at the person in charge of America right now, and you tell me that you think that the shit that you've done is bad. That person's ruling America.
Yeah. Good, like, falling upwards, baby. Let's go.
Dear God. If you want to take one positive out of it, of like, yeah, you're never gonna get to a point where you've done as much heinous shit as that man and he still managed to gain charge of a country again.
Good lesson for life, isn't it? No matter how badly you fuck up.
And on that weird note, thank you all for watching. I don't know how to end this podcast now.
I tried to end it like 10 minutes ago.
I know. I know. I should have just pressed the shut the fuck up button.
It's a great button to press. Always an option. Cheers, everybody.